Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 550. Oh no, I don't remember the numbering anymore. 558, let's say, of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryon Media Network. 557. There we go. Is that the +2? Was that the number +2?
I don't know.
Okay.
557. We'll figure it out later.
You'll find out when you read the show notes, kids and cubs. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver. Pronounce him. Hey, Mr. Beaver A. And as you heard, there's my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Today, recording day is, I guess we're Tuesday now, January 14th. So yeah, then that would make it. Yeah, that probably would make it 8 in this case. And a big thank you to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, CanadianTarot.com. It looks like it's going to be a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
You're
looking better.
Well, I got sleep last night, so that makes a big difference. I was in bed at 8 o'clock, and
Okay.
that's why there was no ASMR, because I couldn't make it. I was too tired, and
Yep.
I did get some sleep. So, yeah, I'm feeling quite a bit better today. How the day progresses is another question, but yeah, I'm feeling better. So we'll take that as a win, right?
Yeah,
Put that in the W column.
absolutely. Good thing. I'm glad you look better because yesterday when before we started the show, I was like, ooh.
I was looking a little haggard.
Yeah, well, let's just say you said it had been 3 days, and it looked like 3 days.
Yeah. 3 days of 4 hours or less sleep is really not good for the mental health or well-being or physical health, for that matter.
Yeah.
It takes its toll. So
it's amazing how just one night rejuvenates.
yeah, it's true. It's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Kids and cubs. Let's see. Who do we have in the chat this morning? Good morning to looking into the magic mirror here. Kit Toronto Dan, the first one in this morning. Kit Uncover, Kit Nona Carol, Kit Linda M, Kit Mr. Jim, Kit Vim. Hello, good morning to you all. Who else do we have with us in the chat this morning? If you're out there and you're breathing, let us know before I get to the end. So slide in. Kit Jason, good morning to you. Saying good morning to the damn fam as well. Who else do we have? Kit Mohan and family. Hello. Kit Playing is here with us. The Kit Auntie Carpenters. Hello. Good to see you. Kit Jillian. Good morning. Nice to see you today. So nice that you can join us. And that's who I have this morning. So, well, let's see. Relatively slow news day, which is kind of good for that type of stuff. There's some international news that's kind of big. Hopefully we'll get a chance to get to it. But okay, Mike H coming in. Hello, good morning to you. And let's see, the kind of big thing yesterday with regard to the Liberal leadership race is we're looking at Mark Carney and we're looking at Chrystia Freeland when it is that they're going to declare. In the background, there's also Jonathan Wilkinson and Karina Gould, who apparently weren't really organizing anything before. And it seems that there are lanes that have opened up. They're looking at it. It seems that, so far as we know, still the businessman Frank Bayliss, who was a Liberal MP for one term in the 2015 election that brought the Liberals into power, but I don't know if he didn't. I'd have to look up his Wikipedia to see if he ran the next election and was not able to get reelected, or if he just didn't run for some reason. Because that, if you don't run for some reason, that's one thing. But if you ran and, in a returning government, you were one of the few people who didn't manage to get reelected, that might be an indication of something. So I'll take a little look at that later. But it seems so far they're still in, but of course they've got till the 23rd to actually, come up with their documents. And I don't know what percentage of the money or if all of it is needed on that date. But that's where those things kind of stand. Pretty sure that Freeland and I'm thinking Andrew Coyne, Mark Carney will be coming in. There's a lot of C's all of a sudden because Andrew Coyne has been very active on the Twitter. There's a lot of things he's not liking, and that thing I say about Andrew Coyne, that he's got it right sometimes and very wrong other times. He's getting it a lot more right on certain things, and I think Andrew might be entering a no fucks left to give zone every now and then. So he was not impressed with Jenny Byrne yesterday, and we'll also get to that. So, but Mr. Carney, as seems to be the trend, talked to us via U.S. television because he had an appearance on the Daily Show last night. Now, it would seem that this is an appearance that was organized before for other stuff in terms of his capacity as the climate and finance envoy for the UN and that type of stuff, right? So apparently it was kind of booked that way. It wasn't intended to be a leadership type interview at the time that they booked him as a guest. But the world has changed. So I'm not sure if they showed the full one on the show, but if you go on Twitter, there's I think it's like a 19-minute chat or something between them. So it's an extended conversation. And it is very, very, very clear based on that conversation that why it is the Conservatives are petrified
and they
of
are
a candidate, Carney, for the leadership and a Carney winner.
He's a well-respected individual, incredibly educated, got Canada through the 2008 financial crisis, despite what the Crowns will tell you that it was the Conservatives who did it when it really wasn't the Conservatives at all. If we had followed Harper's advice, we'd be in deeper shit right now.
Oh, yeah.
You got to remember, the Harper government sold off our shares in GM after buying them at a loss. Sold them at a loss.
Yes. Carney.
Meanwhile, the Liberal government sold off Air Canada shares at a profit.
Mm-hmm. And Carney,
which one is more fiscally responsible then? Which government?
Mm-hmm. And Carney referred to the 2008 crisis and wasn't sort of like as crass as saying the government, but when you were talking about decisions that the U.S. made that we did not make with regard to our banking sector, that some person who led us for a while would have liked us to have made.
Yes.
And some guy who's wants to lead us now would have liked us to have made. Good thing we didn't, though. But so there's it wasn't sort of like sly and oblique and whatnot. But I mean, he's talking about it. It's like, and the U.S. will have their version because 2008 hit them a certain way. But when he's mentioning it and you're watching it as a Canadian, and they're saying, yeah, it's like we didn't do those things like subprime mortgages and dissolve those. I think John Stewart called it dissolve it into particulate matter and then throw it up in the air. And and sell it. So, there's certain things that we didn't do, and he refers to it as in, we didn't do things we didn't do things we didn't understand as bankers during that time in Canada. That was the difference. So, for those of us who are watching in Canada who remember the time, we remember that there were people advocating very strongly for us to do things we didn't understand because the US was getting ahead of us. So, I don't know how he will hand himself one-on-one with someone as venomous and toxic as a Pierre Poilievre in that sense, and, but one-on-one in this type of interview, if anybody is wondering, is he a good politician? He's a freaking fantastic politician, number 1, and if you're wondering about all the intangibles, um, the best way I could say is I got the sense from that interview is that all the things that Pierre Poilievre is not, he is. He is relaxed. He is charming. He has sense of humor. If somebody's playing with him, he'll play too.
Oh, yes.
And he's witty, he's quick, they had this whole metaphor about a relationship and a potential breakup or like coming in like this going on and like this, and it kept on like pretty much through the whole thing. Um, there's an ease about him. There's an
Well, again,
ease
he's
about
used to
him.
being in the spotlight. He's used to being in the public eye. This is not new, so it's easy for him in that sense.
Well, here's the thing, right? Because they're gonna paint him as an elite, right? Is he's used to being in the spotlight. He's used to hobnobbing with those people. He can speak that language, but he's a boy from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories.
Right. I don't think he's forgotten his roots.
And there was some pretty epic trolling on epic and subtle trolling on the Twitter over the course of the weekend because the Rideau Canal Skateway opened, and Mr.
He was
Carney
out on it.
was on it in his hockey skates, looking really, really relaxed. And apparently, Mr. Carney plays hockey, and I'm saying because since this whole alpha male thing seems to be a thing with conservatives, if there is a video of Carney cross-cutting, I think Poilievre is done.
Well, you need to understand something about the conservative mindset, and I say conservative in quotes because they're not conservatives. But the mindset is alpha males don't have emotions. Alpha males aren't compassionate. Alpha males don't have empathy. Alpha males, fuck you. Every last one of you who thinks like that. I'm not being polite on this. You can be an alpha male, be kind, caring, compassionate. You can have the ability to talk to somebody about what you're going through. Talk to another man about your feelings. Compassion, kindness, empathy, and the ability to be open about who you are not marks of weakness. They are marks of strength. And if you think you just have to be this loud, angry man all the time to be alpha, you're an idiot who hasn't learned a damn thing in this world. And I feel compassion and empathy for you. Well, maybe not empathy, but definitely compassion. And I do feel sorry for you. If that's what you think an alpha male is, a loud, obnoxious narcissist like Pierre Poilievre, if you think that guy's alpha, you have some learning to do, man. Because he is the furthest thing from it. A true alpha is a leader. A true alpha is compassionate. A true alpha is somebody who will step into the ring and throw down.
No, here's the thing, right? Alpha is one of those things like being kind or being smart or being a patriot or Christian.
Mm-hmm.
If you are, you don't have to say it. It's obvious by the way you carry yourself.
Yes. Well, this is
And
the
an
other
alpha, whether male or female or whatever, anything alpha, usually will use their alphaness to protect, defend, and provide.
Exactly. This is exactly what it is. Mohan said it right here. Alphas care about their pack and protect.
So,
And if you're a true alpha, you don't have to tell people that. They just see it. They recognize it.
Yep. Yep.
Going around telling people you are.
That's the number one sign you're not.
Yeah.
It's the number one sign you're not.
Well, I'll quote Shakespeare on this. And he thinks thou dost protest too much.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand, saying it out loud to like manifest it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm an alpha is best done with inside voice.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It's like, I'm an alpha. Sure, you're a muffin. Sure you are.
Comment. Andrew Tate made up all this BS because he doesn't want to accept he is gay.
Ouch. Okay, I don't know about that, but
well, if you ever hear some of the things he said and some of the things he's wrote, he goes, he says, if you just have sex with a woman to have sex with a woman, that means you're gay. The only reason you should have sex with a woman is to create a baby. I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah. I'm. Listen, as someone who knows a little bit about the gay, no, just no, and I hope that is not the case because we don't want them on our team.
No, I know you don't.
It's like this is one thing that you have to understand in politics, people, and in activism. It's like there's certain people, even though they want to wear your team jersey, there's certain people you should not want on your team.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how badly they want to be on it, no matter how badly they identify with you, it's like, oh, sorry, you're not on the team. You need a little quality control. Okay. There are standards. Sometimes they're low, sometimes they're really minimum, but we do have them. So all right. So yeah, Mark Carney, for those, like I said, and I saw some comments here in the chat, like wondering, Caitlin M, I have to say this interview with Jon Stewart makes me more comfortable seeing Mark Carney as a candidate than anything I knew about him before. And another person, somebody else was saying that they had never seen him.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know he could be funny, right? Because they always seen him in context of his work, talking about serious things like GDP and economic stuff. So it's but yeah, clearly there's other sides to him. It's like grew up in Northwest Territories, plays hockey, nuance, like this. But the thing is that question again, right? That they keep on asking that really is irrelevant in terms of being able to govern a country, but it seems is, important when we vote. Would you like to have a beer with him? I don't think there's anybody. I mean, that are not like ideologically, like, it's like, if they identify as that, I don't want to, they do not exist for me. They are dead. They're just evil. But for anybody from that crowd, I think anybody would like to go have a beer with that guy. Plus, he looks like a nice boy. He looks, he's funny and whatnot like this. And he can like get a little appropriately saucy, but he can be. And, but he's a nice boy. You can take home to mama too. So, they can sell this. They can sell him. It is very, very understandable why Pierre Poilievre is petrified. And the whole CPC is petrified. And it might be explaining some erratic and irrational behavior. Again, manifested by Jenny Byrne, but we'll get back to that. I've shown some leg and thigh today. In terms of the leadership race, we hear that François Philippe Champagne is going to be making some type of announcement really soon. I think it could be as early as today, but maybe tomorrow. And Mark Carney during the interview, still playing coy a bit, as not saying like I am running, but if you listen to that interview, and not only by the charming and the debonair, I mean, like actual words and what like this, yeah, he is running. I mean, he did everything but said, "I am declaring here on the Daily Show that I am running, that I'm entering the race." But again, in a way that's deft with language, not that there's plausible deniability, but making it very clear. Like that he is considering it very, very, very seriously. And, about the only way you can still say that he's still considering running is if like some meteor hits between now and the time he files his paper and says, "Oh, this might be too much work." Like, right. It's like 99.87999% in. But still not crass and not selling himself like he's very, very skilled in how he works things in to a conversation. So he now, of course, this is a friendly, non-confrontational environment, right? So I mean, how he handles different types of pressure, but that type of pressure breaks spotlight when he knows a whole nation is watching him, and maybe a whole world. Because we are a G7 nation, I'm pretty sure there might have been the people people in the international realm, because that follow Canada for their nations, have certainly tuned into this and are reporting back. Yes. Because they're scouting who the next potential one might be, right?
Well, I can tell you,
so
the Conservatives and Poilievre are scared shitless of Mark Carney. They are.
They need to be.
And
I've rarely seen something so masterfully well done.
If Carney wins the position, which he very well may, it's not guaranteed.
No, you still have to have the policies, and you still have to compete. And Christopher Freeland's going to bring stuff.
Oh yes, let's say
Karina Gould is no slouch, right?
Well, let's say Carney wins, and then there's an election in October. Do you actually think Pierre will show up to debate? Or will he pay the $50,000 fine to avoid it each time? Because something tells me that's exactly what he'll do. Because he does not want to confront Mark Carney, because he knows he'll be wiped. The floor will be wiped. Well, Carney or Chrystia Freeland, or even Karina Gould for that matter, any one of them become the Liberal leader.
Wilkinson too.
Any one of them will wipe the floor with the little pipsqueak.
You have to understand that Karina Gould, we featured a couple of things. Jonathan Wilkinson, we haven't had a chance to feature him very much. There is a clip of him doing an interview that we'll bring you at some point. But these two are very serious people with very credible backgrounds, and they're extremely accomplished.
Yes,
in their own right. I mean, if you hear Jonathan Wilkinson's story, where he came from, and like this, the type of business he's built up and what he's done, like this, he is credible.
Mm-hmm.
In many other alternate universes, he's the guy.
Let's also
he has the stuff to be the guy.
All of these people have lived and worked in the real world, outside of politics.
Well, that too, but there's also like a minimum level of competence and achievement and ability to communicate and rigor and process and method, and that they bring, that is of a class that is high enough that even though you're in a race where people are going to be going Carney and Freeland and Carney, because they're such big names and they are so incredibly hyper accomplished. I mean, Carney and Freeland are the two kids at school that were like the super keeners who got everything done, right? And you're just like looking, you already know, you see them at 14, oh yeah, they're going to be running a company someday, like most likely to be prime minister, right?
Well, let me just read a few things to you about Karina Gould here, because I think she's the youngest. She's 38. She's the youngest of all of them, right?
Yeah.
So she was born in Burlington, Ontario, in a family with 3 brothers. Her paternal grandparents were from Czech Republic or Czechia, I guess, who had survived the Holocaust. Her mother is German and met her father while on a kibbutz in Israel. At 16, she participated in the Forum for Young Canadians, spending a week in Ottawa. Sorry a sec, I'm just changing things. Learning about the federal government, which she credits as the impetus for her goal of a career in Parliament. After she graduated from M.M. Robinson High School in 2005, my goodness, that's only 20 years ago, she spent the next year volunteering at an orphanage in Mexico where she met her husband, Alberto Girones. Upon her return to Canada in 2006, Gould attended McGill University, earning a joint honors degree in political science as well as Latin American and Caribbean studies. Writing her honors thesis on the Canadian electoral system, she graduated first-class honors with distinction in 2010. During her time as an undergraduate student, she served as the president of the Arts Undergraduate Society and helped organize the fundraising for humanitarian aid for Haiti in the aftermath of the 2010 earthquake. In 2010, Gould took a job with the Organization of American States in Washington, D.C., working as a consultant in the Migration and Development Program. She is cited as contributing to the 2011 report, International Migration in the Americas, first report of the continuous reporting system on international migration in the Americas. She subsequently completed a master's degree in international relation at St. Hilda's College, Oxford. Upon completion of her graduate studies at Oxford, Gould decided to move back to her hometown of Burlington, Ontario. She took a job working as a trade and investment specialist for the Mexican Trade Commission, pro-Mexico, in Toronto. Gould held this position for less than a year before announcing her candidacy in the 2015 election at the age of 28. I mean, for somebody, 37, she'll be 38. When's her birthday? When is her birthday? I'm trying to find her birthday here. June 28th. Yeah, she'll be 38 this year.
And twice a mother.
Yes, 2 children. And was breastfeeding in the House of Commons with their baby. I mean, this woman is rock solid, well-educated, has experience working in the real world, has the experience with working with the underprivileged, has compassion and empathy.
And can go toe-to-toe with Pierre Poilievre.
Oh, yeah. She's not afraid of anybody. I think she'd make a great leader and a great prime minister, to be honest with you.
She would. That's what I'm saying. And I just sent you a clip, Mr. Grizzly, if you'll go into it, which was the interview with Jonathan Wilkinson on Power and Politics the other day. So figure we'll bring it because we might be hearing about him. But this guy here, when we're talking about, how would I put it? You know how much we appreciate Anita Anand?
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, she's got that rigor. She's got that discipline. She's extremely professional. I mean, look what she did at defense. Look what she did during COVID. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right? You want the trains to run on time, you get Anita Anand. You want something done well, you get Anita Anand.
Yes.
Jonathan Wilkinson's the male Anita Anand.
I would agree with that.
This government, I guess, doesn't get a lot of profile, doesn't get a lot of TV time because he doesn't have a high-profile portfolio in terms of talking out this, but has a high-profile portfolio in terms of energy and natural resources, in terms of community relations and stakeholder relations. And for all the noise that Danielle Smith makes about resources and stuff, we haven't heard much from the industry itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's Jonathan Wilkinson.
Well, I think all of the candidates are pretty solid.
Yeah, the ones that we're wondering about is Ariane Bayless, but of all the other ones that are coming forward, solid candidate. That's why I say any one of them in any given year are leader material in their own right. The other, again, not talking Aria and Bayless, but so far, any of the other people that are so far contending, Champagne as well, whether or not he puts in, these are all people that have resumes and accomplishments. In any race, group of people, they could be the front leader as well.
They have not been lifelong elitist politicians like the leader of the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll say, I'm not an elitist. Oh, bullshit. You've never known anything but the spoiled, soft hands of the government. You've never struggled in your life. You don't know what it's like to roll quarters to get enough money together to buy a box of KD at the corner store because you can't make it to the grocery store. You have no concept of reality. And he never will. He never will.
So Wilkinson was an advisor to Saskatchewan Premier Roy Robineau and served in the provincial civil service from 91 to 95 when he joined Bain and Company's Toronto branch. In 99, he relocated to Vancouver to work for Questar Technologies, a gas purification company, and he became its CEO in 2002. In 2009, he became the Senior Vice President for Business Development at Nexterra Systems, a biomass company. In 2011, Wilkinson became the CEO of BioTcute Environmental Technologies, a water treatment company based in Vancouver. He's a clean tech guy,
Yes,
but CEO. Came into a company and became its CEO within 3 years.
that doesn't happen easy.
Saskatchewan guy.
Mhm.
Oh, Mark Carney apparently is going to be announcing from Edmonton and might be running for a seat in Edmonton.
Interesting.
I don't think the Liberals are planning to run this election to just save the furniture.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
Not with the ministers that are staying behind to prove that there's still stable government and that we still have strong leadership during the time. It seems that everybody seems to be pretty clear that it's going to be one or two people, unless there's a surprise that comes, and they've all decided to become the strongest team possible behind either of them. This story's not over yet. The story's not over yet because a lot of this is going to be about how the Conservatives react. Do they meet the moment or do they fall apart? And so far, meeting the moment is not their strong suit. So yeah, do we have the interview with him?
I do have it queued up here. Do you want to start right from the get-go?
Yes, let's do that.
All right, just bear with me a second here while I get this loaded up.
And by the way, let me caveat this, Kids and Cubs. For those of you who miss the days of boring politics, competent, but I'm not trying to be a star, not trying to seek the spotlight all the time, and you can leave me unsupervised with a pack of matches type of politics and not think about politics. This is your guy.
We're going to begin, though, with some developments on one of the big names that may be about to get into the Liberal leadership race, former British Columbia Premier Christy Clark. Now, one of the criticisms of Clark's potential leadership bid from other Liberals is that she joined the Conservatives to vote for Jean Charest in the leadership race won by Pierre Poilievre. Well, my colleague Catherine Cullen, the host of CBC's podcast The House, asked Clark about this today, and Catherine joins me now. Catherine, what did Christy Clark say when you asked her about this?
Yeah, David, the discussion really took a bit of an interesting turn here, and just a fact that your membership was canceled.
We already saw that yesterday. This might be the wrong clip.
The timestamps at the bottom.
Oh, I missed the timestamp. My apologies. Hold on a second here. I'll get it straightened out. That's my mistake. My apologies. I didn't see. That's why I said you want to start from the get-go. I missed the timestamp.
Sorry. Yes, the get-go, the timestamp thing. Not the get-go.
Yeah, I thought
I was lying. I wasn't clear on that one.
Yeah. For guys who work as communicators, sometimes we don't communicate all that well.
We figure it out, though.
Well, eventually we get there. All right, we'll try this again. My apologies for the screw-up.
Well, I'm joined now by another member of the Canada-U.S. Committee, one who has said he is considering a leadership bid. Jonathan Wilkinson is the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, and he joins me now. Minister, thanks for being here. We appreciate the time.
No, thanks for having me.
You were listening in there as Catherine and I was explaining what was going on. I wanted to ask you, as a British Columbia Liberal, what you make of what Christy Clark had to say today, saying that despite her public comments in the past of joining the Conservative Party, she never actually did it.
I mean, as folks probably know, Ms. Clark led a government here in British Columbia that was a coalition of Conservatives and Liberals, but it was mainly Conservatives. She has, been associated with the Conservative Party now for some period of time, and as your interview pointed out. And so I think that Ms. Clark will have to answer those questions in the context of trying to convince Liberal Party members that she's actually a Liberal and is a suitable person to lead the Liberal Party.
How do you think Liberal Party members will respond to this revelation and this sort of change, certainly in our understanding of her past partisan affiliation?
Well, I think people will have some questions. The affiliation wasn't that long ago. So, I think Ms. Clark will need to be able to articulate how she came to a different perspective and why she thinks that she is appropriate a person to lead the Liberal Party. So I think there's some hard questions for her to answer, and that'll be up to her in her campaign.
Okay, I'm going to ask you what I hope might be an easy question for you to answer. We've got the rules. Will you be running for the leadership of this party?
That's such an easy question. I am actively considering it. It's obviously a big decision. And certainly it would be an honor to participate in that race. I think I bring a number of things to the table, including almost 25 years of business experience, including many years as a chief executive officer. And I do think Canadians are wanting us to focus a little bit more on economic issues going forward. By the same token, it's not a decision to be taken lightly. And that is particularly true given that the role that I play on the Canada-US Committee, where I have responsibility for energy and natural resources. Those are some of the most central issues to the conversations we will be having with President Trump. And perhaps will be the most critical to trying to find pathways through which we turn a conversation about tariffs that will hurt both countries into a conversation about how we can actually derive mutual benefit from working together.
On the rules, though, that the party put out, a lot of people said they were waiting to see what that would be, the entrance fee, the timelines, the sign-up rules. $350,000 is a lot of money. It's higher than any other leadership race, I think, in the history of the country, because it is a prime minister that will come out of the winning side of this. Is that a barrier to your entry, or is there anything in the rules that you see as an obstacle to you potentially getting into this?
Well, I think it's a barrier to some people entering the race. I would have preferred the party set it lower so that we would have a more inclusive race where it was a little bit easier for folks to actually participate in a conversation. I think it's always better to have more voices, whether one of them is mine or not. For me, though, I don't see that as a huge barrier. I have been reasonably proficient in raising money here in North Vancouver and helping other ridings, so I don't see that as a huge barrier. I do think the very short time frame, and there was no choice for the party in terms of the time frame, but the very short time frame probably advantages some of the folks that actually have been building campaigns for some time. I was not one of them. I didn't really feel it was appropriate to be organizing a leadership bid when we already had a leader. And so I have only been thinking about this over the course of the past week or so. But I don't see there being huge barriers for me in terms of making my decision.
Right. Okay, so what would the timeline be? Because as you said, the timeline is short, the dollar amount is high, and you're coming to this late in the game compared to, say, maybe Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland, who's had some more free time since the 16th of December. So what's the timeline for you to decide what you're going to do, sir?
We have to decide by the 23rd of January. I will tell you it's probably even a little bit more complicated for me because I am traveling to Washington, D.C. on Monday to be having conversations with American legislators and others about why tariffs are a bad idea and some ideas about how perhaps we find pathways out of this, what is a destructive conversation. So I will be doing that as the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, which means that my timeline in terms of making a decision and announcing a decision perhaps are even shorter. But I will be doing that well before the 23rd. Okay, so these conversations you're going to be having in Washington, the legislators, do they really need to be convinced that these tariffs are a bad idea, or is it just Donald Trump that needs to be convinced it's a bad idea? Because I don't see a surge of members of Senate and Congress saying, let's do this. It's really being driven by the president-elect and the people in his orbit. So do you think you're getting through to Donald Trump? Well, I would say I think it's important to be talking to a range of folks in Washington because Donald Trump talks to a lot of folks. And there are a number of different people that he relies on for advice. Some of them are senators. And so senators, like Lindsey Graham are very important. And my colleague Melanie Joly was talking with Mr. Graham, I think, a number of times over the course of the past few weeks. I will be meeting with a number of particularly Republican senators and others to have some of these conversations. I also would expect to have conversations with others who are proximate to the president. And it's important in my mind to actually have Americans weighing in on this with Americans. That it's one thing for Canadians to try to actually make a convincing argument to the American president as to why something is not in their best interest. But it's great if we can actually get American businesses like the American Petroleum Institute and the Edison Institute and others to be talking about why it is so important that the relationship, the trading relationship between the countries, actually is expanded, not shrunk.
Right, but if the arguments don't work, if the data and the logic do not stop this, my colleague Katie Simpson was reporting the other day that your government's looking at retaliatory tariffs on steel products, glassware, ceramics, Florida orange juice. How ready are you to go on the retaliatory side of things? Because I know the premiers have some ideas they're going to present next week when they meet with the Prime Minister. I mean, do you think you have a robust enough response so that the Americans will feel it if Donald Trump goes ahead with this?
Yes, and certainly we are talking to the provinces about this. I mean, it's important that there is an overall Team Canada approach that includes the premiers in this conversation, so that we're not having separate conversations with the Americans. That would be a bad idea for Canada if we can't actually put a common front together. We are actually looking at a number of different lists. We haven't finalized that yet, and part of it depends on exactly what the president will do. I think it would not be wise for us to be putting in place a very strict list that we're going to go forward with until we actually know what the president is going to do. But we are prepared to respond. The government of Canada has to be in a position to respond. We can't simply take it. By the same token, we don't want an escalatory thing. We want to find things that actually create some level of pain for Americans without causing concurrent pain for Canadians. And that will inform the final list that we actually put out. But again, I mean, the focus for Canada needs to be not just on preparing to respond, but trying to find ways to either prevent the imposition of tariffs, or if in fact the president is determined to impose the tariffs, to find a way to have them lifted relatively quickly, which is largely what happened with steel and aluminum in the first Trump term.
One more question before I let you go, Minister. And I just want to circle back to the leadership race. We've done many interviews over the years of your support for the carbon price, carbon tax, and defending it as the most efficient and effective way to reduce emissions. That is going to be a topic of some discussion, I would anticipate, in this leadership debate as people talk about moving your party more towards the middle and more towards focusing on the economy. Do you think your current climate plan that includes a carbon tax is going to survive this transition in leadership based on where you think the mood of the country and the mood of the party is right now?
We have developed the climate plan in the context of trying to ensure affordability, but also in the context of actually building an economy that's going to create jobs and economic opportunity, like the thousands of jobs being created by the Dow net zero petrochemical facility in Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, or the ultra low potash mine in Jansen Potash Mine that BHP is building in Saskatchewan. So we are thinking about the economy in the context of fighting climate change. And in the context of the fight against climate change, like, I'm not an ideological person. I'm actually a very practical person. I am looking for tools that can enable us to make emissions reductions in a manner that is both affordable and that actually incents economic development and innovation. Carbon pricing was one tool in a much broader toolbox that we chose. It was something that virtually every economist in Canada and elsewhere actually endorsed as a way to actually efficiently reduce emissions. And if you actually recycle the money back as a rebate to ensure it's done in a manner that's affordable on a go-forward basis. And that actually includes many conservatives. I mean, people should remember that Erin O'Toole and the Conservative Party actually ran on a climate platform that included a price on pollution in the last federal election. That included Pierre Poilievre, who went door to door, actually endorsing a carbon price. So I am really interested in outcomes, and those outcomes are economic. Those outcomes are about affordability. And they're also about climate change. Like, climate change still hasn't gone away. It's real. It is a science issue. It shouldn't be a partisan or political issue. And at some point, Mr. Poilievre is going to have to explain whether he is a climate skeptic or he just doesn't care about the future that our children will inherit.
Right, but that sounds to me, Minister, and I don't want to misstate or misrepresent what you just said, that you're willing to reconsider it because, you know, tools in toolboxes need to be used and have public support for their use, I suppose. And that public support is under threat. I mean, are you willing to consider moving off of that if that's what it takes, if you can find another way to reduce emissions without undermining public confidence here?
I'm never going to say that I'm going to hold on to something blindly, if in fact there are better ways to do things. I will say, though, that we selected the carbon price, the price on pollution, because it was an efficient way of actually doing this, more efficient than regulatory mechanisms, more efficient than simply investing. But certainly, I'm always open to conversations about how we can ensure that we achieve the outcomes that we want to. And I would actually, you know, in just in that vein, point to the province of Quebec, which actually uses a cap and trade system rather than a price on pollution. Every province in this country could put into place the same system that Quebec has, which doesn't involve a retail price. It's just provinces haven't chosen to do it. And you know, the first province that actually put into a price on pollution, circling back to the beginning of this, was British Columbia, with a Liberal government that Christy Clark ended up heading up after Gordon Campbell. That was the model that was used for the federal price. So that's another question perhaps people should ask Ms. Clark, but now somehow seems to think that she doesn't need a climate plan.
Okay, Minister Jonathan Wilkinson.
So I like him.
He's good.
He's very good. You know, here's the thought. Here's the thought. So he's smart. He's good. He knows what he's talking about. I thought, you know, the cap and trade system, we had that in Ontario and Doug Ford eliminated it.
Right.
That's why they came up with a federal program, because not enough provinces were doing a damn thing about it. But here's what I'm thinking, and you tell me how far out to lunch I am on this. So 3 of the 4 candidates for Liberal leader are from the West.
Mm-hmm.
Chrystia Freeland's from Alberta.
Yes.
Jonathan Wilkinson is from Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Carney is from Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories. And in case you're not sure where Fort Smith is, I'll just show you on the old Google Maps here. See, oh, look at that. Look at that. There's the Alberta border, and Fort Smith is right on it. Huh.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm.
So we've got 3 Westerners, one from Saskatchewan, one from Alberta, and one from Alberta adjacent. They still going to be upset if any one of them get in, because the West wants in, right? That's what Harper said. The West wanted in, the West got in. Except Harper's not from the West, but that's where he ran. So I think if they market it in that manner, it could hurt. It could help them. It could help them.
It could. It could indeed. So that's why I'm saying it's like, oh, wait. There may be some life in the old party yet.
Mm-hmm.
They not be rolling over because of the conventional thinking is like, find someone who's really good, who'll want to, stay with the party for 8 to 10 years as a rebuilding phase. That's one of the reasons why Karina Gould is very attractive as a potential leader. If they're not planning to do a one and done, you get to go to this time like this, and if you don't get it or don't save enough furniture, we're kicking you out. So if they're planning to have someone that'll be there for a few cycles.
We're getting noise from your mic. You're going to have to plug and unplug. Yeah. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's gone a little haywire. It was getting all scronkly. And for those of you who might not be aware of Stephen Harper and where he's from, he is originally from Leaside, which is a community in Toronto adjacent to North York, right beside the Aga Khan Museum. Just saying. Just saying. I'll show you a picture of that too. So it's like to say he's from the West, except that's where he's from, Leaside. Right next to a Costco, and adjacent to East York, and right next to the Aga Khan Museum. So, he said the West wanted in, the West got in, except Harper was never from the West. He was an adopted Westerner, much like Jason Kenney. So if the West wants in, the West wants the reins of power. We have 3 individuals running for leader who are from there. And one incredibly accomplished young woman who I think is amazing and would make a great leader and a great prime minister. Either way, no matter who wins out of these 4, and I don't know if anybody else is going to go into the running, of these 4, and Chrystia Freeland hasn't declared yet, by the way. She's supposed to later this week, but she hasn't yet. We would be in a very good position as a nation with any one of these 4 in that position. It's just as simple as that. All 4 of them are great people who are well accomplished, educated, highly educated, and give a damn about this country and her citizens. We would be in good position if any one of them got in as Liberal leader, and subsequently they become prime minister for a short time period until the next election.
Right. There's an article I'm looking for that somebody had sent me yesterday, and I can't find it because it has to do with Christy Clark. Since we were talking about her a little bit. Pardon me, I have to cough.
Okay, you can go ahead and do that. I'll just put you on the mute there so that nobody has to hear it.
All right, there we go. Wish I could find it, but it was an article from the time of the Conservative leadership race, one of them, and it was her talking about considering running for it.
Yeah.
The alleged lifelong Liberal.
Right. I think Christy Clark is an opportunist, to be honest with you. That's all I think she is. I don't believe she's a lifelong Liberal at all. I think she's an opportunist, much in the same way that Pierre Poilievre is. I'm not saying she's as evil as him because she can't stand him either. But she's an opportunist, and maybe a bit of a narcissist. I mean, it certainly appears so. I never said that. But we have videotape of you here saying that.
I wouldn't put it past them to manufacture a membership form.
Yeah, exactly. That's narcissism, right? That's narcissism.
So yeah, that's another one that came out. I mean, if you're giving interviews talking about considering running for the leadership of the Conservative Party, you've been approached and you're seriously considering it. How much of a lifelong Liberal can you be?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody posted to my Twitter the other day. This is next when the NDP gives Jagmeet the boot, you'll see that she's running for the NDP too. I would be shocked and not surprised.
Interesting comment here from Mr. Jim, and I can't say I disagree with him entirely. I wouldn't say I'm wholeheartedly embracing his statement, but I'm definitely not pushing it off to the side because the nuance. But he says, I hate to say it, and in parentheses, and I'm a bit ashamed of my country for it, but the Liberals need an old white guy if they want to beat Pierre Poilievre. And damn it, he might be right. That's why I say I'm not pushing it off to the side. You might be right, sir. You may very well be right. An old white guy might reassure some of the on the fence sitters, if you will.
Some people vote for what they know.
Yes. They're like, oh, I know that fella. He's a good fella.
Yeah. Since we're talking about leadership candidates, through Kit Uncover, confirmed through some breaking news that it looks like Champagne is going to announce something today at some point, unless they meant next Tuesday, but they said Tuesday, so I'm guessing that that's today. Since we're talking, we were talking about the other guys. We talked about Chandra Arya the other day on the show, but we've mentioned Frank Bayless, but we haven't actually talked about him itself. So as early as January 9th, he came out. He was the first one to come out and to say that he intended to run. That's way before the new rules were announced. I looked at his Wikipedia. He did not run again in 2019. So it wasn't that he ran again and was rejected. He just did not run again in 2019. When asked about it, he said he was considering a run since at least last summer after the Liberals lost the Toronto St. Paul by-election. Quote, I believe that my skill set can be something that can really help our country to get to its full potential. I want to be part of building our country to the next level. Bayless is a businessman and former MP who represented Montreal's Pierrefonds Dollard from 2015 to 2019 and chose not to seek re-election. He resides in the West Island. He holds an electrical engineering degree from the University of Waterloo and jointly ran Bayless Medical Technologies from 1989 to 2022. The company, previously called Bayless Medical, was founded by Bayless's mother, Gloria Bayless, a registered nurse and civil rights activist originally from Barbados. His father, Richard Bayless, immigrated to Montreal from the United Kingdom in early 1950. The company was sold to an American firm in 2022 for a reported $1.75 billion. Bayless serves as the executive chairman of the board of directors. He said that as the leader, he would stand up to President-elect Donald Trump and protect Canadians' jobs and Canadian industries. Quote, these are negotiating tactics from President-elect Trump, and they will not work on me, and I have already dealt with these kinds of things. So I would tell Canadians to understand what he is trying to do. Do not fall into the trap. We will get together and make it work, he explained. So that's what we have on Frank Bayless. Now, there's another person, which is really interesting.
And Bayless is Bayliss, correct me if I'm wrong?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
There's another person as well who plans to run, and his name is Jaime Batist, and he's an MP from Sydney, Victoria. And hopefully I will be able to bring an interview with him because there is one. I just need to find it. But I know that there is one. Since Sean Fraser is not running again, and certainly not running for the leadership, and Dominic LeBlanc is not either, there's no candidate from Atlantic Canada. And Jaime Batist has announced that he is looking at running, and it would be a historic run because back in 2019, when he ran, he was elected as the first Mi'kmaq MP. So he would be running to be the first Indigenous man who's a leader of a nation. And weren't you just talking about that a couple of days ago, Mr. Grizzly? Wouldn't it be nice? Maybe it's time for an Indigenous man?
Maybe I may have said something along those lines.
Yeah. It looks like a candidate may be entering the ring. I see his photo here. Looks very, very photogenic. His is a name I have heard before in terms of preparing stuff for the show. So he's not totally unknown to me, but I do not know a lot about him. But he's not Arya Chandra. Says, I do not know who this person is at all. And it's like, oh yeah, I know this name, Jaime Batist. So active enough as an MP in his area, whatnot, for him to not be unfamiliar to me. I mean, there's 338. I can't know all of them. So, but I have heard of him. So again, if you're in small riding in Nova Scotia, Cindy, Victoria, you're not Halifax riding, and you've managed to get to the attention of someone like me in Ottawa.
Yes.
A couple of times, you're doing your job right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not for because it can be brought to. I have to specify. Somebody can be brought to your attention for famous or infamous reasons. Nothing infamous. Every time his name has come up in anything I've read, it's because he's been done or said or contributing something positive. Yes.
Well, something I think any one of the candidates do need to address, and this is something I've talked to a number of folks about, and I've had to school a few people sometimes, and I'm gonna paint a big picture here. So hold on for a few minutes while I do this, and then I'm going to grab a coffee. So we recently had the Canada Post strike, and many people I know here in this city said, like I do, like I give a shit. I'm like, actually, I do. I'm waiting on things from the federal government that can only go through the mail. They don't email you this stuff, number one. Number two, there are thousands upon thousands of small Canadian businesses that rely upon Canada Post to ship their goods and their goods because of the fact private sector, A, is too expensive, and B, doesn't go to where that client is. Also, people who live in remote and rural areas of this country have two very, very important public services available to them. CBC Radio, CBC Television, I'll say that as one entity, and Canada Post. And without them, it's very difficult for those communities to function.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I said it's an important service, it may not affect you because you live in a major urban center. But there are millions of people across this country who don't live in a major urban center, who need these services, which was an eye-opening thing for them. Where I'm going with this is those people who live in those rural and remote areas throughout northern Canada, northern Alberta, northern Saskatchewan, northern British Columbia, all scattered throughout the province of Manitoba. And I noticed somebody said here in the chat that Kenora more closely identifies with the prairies than it does with anything else because it's closer to Winnipeg than it is Toronto by a large margin.
Mm-hmm.
All of Atlantic Canada. The folks who live in these areas vote. They're Canadians and they count. They need the two services I just mentioned, desperately need them. Something else we should consider with Canada Post is to put in a banking function that they once had because more and more branches are closing in small, remote, rural areas from the commercial banking sector. So Canada Post can help out with that.
Right.
But any one of these candidates need to pay attention to these folks because these folks, the reason, especially in the Western provinces, they keep voting for the cons because the cons are telling them what they want to hear. They don't do a damn thing for them, but they're telling them what they want to hear. You matter. I hear you. I'm going to help you. They never do. By evidence by the last 50 years of conservative leadership in the province of Alberta, that hasn't done a damn thing for those folks, but
they took away vision care coverage in Alberta.
They keep hearing about it. They keep hearing that I'm going to help you. We're going to support you. And they never do. So any one of these candidates needs to reach out to those folks across the country, throughout Atlantic Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador, the Maritimes. They're separate, right? Atlantic Canada is all of it. The Maritimes is separate from Newfoundland and Labrador. It's important that you understand that. We need to beef up our public services. We need to make sure that provincial premiers put the money into healthcare and education that they're supposed to put into healthcare and education. Do we have to put strings attached to that money? Maybe we do. Maybe it's time we do, because you can clearly see that they're not doing it in Ontario. They're not doing it in Alberta or Nova Scotia. People are suffering. So provincial premiers need to get on board with helping out their constituents. They're not doing it. But it's important that the rest of the country is attended to and told that they count and damn well mean it. Mean it. Show compassion. Go to the remote areas. See the people. Talk to them. Listen to what they have to say because they feel all of their words are ignored or fall on, for want of a better term, deaf ears. If you can come up with a better term than that, I'd love to hear it. And this is somebody who's hearing impaired.
Yeah, no,
people in those areas of the country feel like they don't count. They feel like they're never heard. They're never listened to. And it's important that we address them and we let them know we care and we're compassionate and empathetic and we're going to do something to help you out.
We've been saying it on the show like this for a long time. One of the Liberals' main faults is the complete and utter lack of a policy for rural Canada.
Nothing.
There's appears to be no outreach whatsoever. It's like, we'll just focus on the cities and we'll win the cities. And it's like, you need a policy for rural Canada.
You do. Yeah, you do.
There needs to be a serious rural development, not just like a minister for something else and the north and, a minister for rural economic development, which you do need, but there's got to be more than that.
Well, like I said, I've talked to people in Alberta. I've talked to people in Saskatchewan who said, we don't feel like we're part of the country because nobody's attending to us. We're always left out of the conversation. And I was shocked to hear that. I mean, I've lived most of my life in Ontario, but I have lived all over the country. I did live in Alberta for 7 years. I lived in Newfoundland for 3.
Yeah. When we had Ted Hsu
Mhm.
on the show, right, the MP for Kingston, I think it's called Kingston the Island as well. I'm not sure. Federally, it's Kingston the Island. I'm not sure about provincially.
Mhm.
But when he was running for the leadership of the Ontario Liberals, that was one of the things. He says, it's like, you think of Kingston, you think of an urban area, but my riding is half urban, half rural.
Correct.
So, I mean, he was like able to come up and talk about, this, I'm not sure if we talked about safe consumption sites, but he could talk about safe consumption sites, and he could talk about, what's need for the agricultural economy in the area with just as much ease. And the guy's a physicist. So, but with just as much ease. And he took it upon himself to do some rural outreach when he was running for the leadership of the Ontario Liberals. Because, I mean, we had this conversation, but yeah, for some reason, the Liberals appear to, I mean, the NDP has a rural component.
Right.
I mean, but yeah, it just seems that the Liberals, they have nothing for them. I mean, and it's not going to be like 6 months before. I mean, this is work that they needed to start, like, the year that Justin Trudeau got elected, and have a specific outreach to rural. But they just dominated the urban areas so much, and everybody got thinking, well, the younger kids, like this, they're more inclusive and they're more open. So that form of conservatism is just going to die out until, economic crash and COVID and all that kind of stuff. And, oh, you know what? Young people want to eat, and young people want to feel that they can aspire to having a home one day. And if you don't actually meet that part of the social contract, then stuff about immigration and being nice to people who are different and whatnot kind of takes a back seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, the basic hierarchy of needs. Cooperation is an evolved state of being.
Indeed.
Empathy is an evolved state of being. You get the benefit of that when you have something to eat and a place to rest your head. Start taking that away.
See what happens then. I got to make some coffee. I'll be back in a few minutes. So I'm going to go off cam.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Kits and Cups. One thing we did not mention, I'm going to take a little detour on Mr. Grizzly's way and talk about a couple of Canadians who have made us proud. The women's under 18 hockey team played in the final against defending champions, the United States. And, news again from the land where the women are strong and the men are pretty, Canada. The women won 3-0, a shutout performance against the United States defending champions to win the gold medal. Boom. That's how you do it. Just good. And way to bring it home after the guys didn't do it. So congratulations, Team Canada. Way to be. That was a beauty, eh? So then Team Canada does better than the year before because they had won bronze. In the semifinal, they played against Team Czechia. Last year, I believe they lost to for the ability to get to the gold medal match. So a little bit of juicy, delightful revenge, and then keeping the Americans, who had been storming away with the tournament, to a shutout, shutting them out in the final. That puts an exclamation mark on it, eh? Boom. So great performance, great performance. Happy for them, and they should be celebrated. Also, I do believe that we have a gentleman named Nick Taylor, who is a golfer. And over the course of the weekend, they had to go to a playoff hole, but he prevailed and won the Sony Open in Hawaii. So that's a PGA event, I believe. But he eagled the 18th hole. I believe an eagle, if I'm not mistaken, is 2 under par in order to tie Nico Echeverria to get to the playoff, and then won the playoff. So that's a pretty darn good performance from this guy. He's 36 years old. He's from Abbotsford, British Columbia, originally. I'm not sure. I don't think that this is his first title. But yeah, he. I have to see how many titles it is that he has. But this is a really so the Sony Open's a pretty big one on the tour. Quote, I really love the trophies, Taylor said, but I would also love to be more consistent. And he's saying that because he's got, wow, there we go. And it says he's got 1 win in each of the last 3 years and 5 wins overall. But he said when he won the Phoenix Open and won it, after that, he went to 23 starts over 11 months without a top 10 at all after that win. So that's why he's saying he would like to be a little more consistent. But yeah, he's making it happen. He said that last year he was a little discouraged because he's battling for a spot in the Olympics and the President's Cup that was being held at the Royal Montreal with Mike Weir as the international captain. And when he won the Phoenix Open, he thought that he was punching his card to go for all those things because he had done so well. And then, he had that series of that we mentioned about 23 different entries or something like that without getting a top 10 and only one finish in the top 20 and missed the cut in all 4 majors afterwards. So eventually, he didn't get the spot at the Olympics, and then he got the call from Mike Weir saying he wasn't on the President's Cup team. So a bit of redemption for him as well. So that's some very, very good news for him. At the Australian Open, the first round is over in singles for our Canadian players, and Canadians went 4 for 5. So Denis Shapovalov did defeat Roberto Bautista Agut this morning just before going on air. Felix Auger-Aliassime did defeat the player he was against, Jan-Lennard Struff, I think, from Germany. And was Gabriel Diallo in his I think on the show I said it was his first Grand Slam match. That was a mistake. I have to correct myself because he did get to the 3rd round of the US Open. It's the first time he was gained entry into a Grand Slam directly by virtue of his ranking. So that was the first for him. But he was playing a guy named Lucas Nardi from Italy, and it went 5 sets, but he won as well. So, and Leilani Fernandez, of course, won her first round match earlier. So the 5th player was Rebecca Marino, who was in tough, playing against Katie Boulter, who was seated among the top 32. But Marino pushed her very, very hard, went the full 3 sets, and it was an extremely respectable scoreline. And she was very, very, very close to scoring a major upset and defeating her. So great performances by all 5 Canadians. And Leila Fernandez also played her first doubles match. Her and her partner are ranked 16th in that tournament, and they won it 2 sets to none, and pretty handily in the sets. So lots of good news for our tennis players at the Australian Open, and a lot of good news for our tennis players overall, Kits and Cubs, because over the course of the weekend, there were many tournaments going on, and our Canadians did exceptionally well. The biggest of them being Felix Auger-Aliassime, who is also ranked in the top 32 in the world for the men. He was playing at a tournament in Adelaide, Australia, right before the Australian Open. And during that tournament, he defeated the number 1 player in that tournament, a guy named Tommy Paul, who's ranked 11th in the world. Felix went into the tournament ranked 29th and went all the way and actually won the tournament. So a great start for him to begin the year, especially with a lot of confidence. But yes, it's the sixth title of his career, and is that first title won on an outdoors venue. He seems to have doing very well in indoor venues. But yes, he had defeated Corda. His last name is Sebastian Corda. I think probably related to Stefan, who's a very well-known player back in the day. To win the title, and Steve Auger-Aliassime won it 6-3, 3-6, 6-1. So really clinching it in that final set, and making no doubt about it in any way, shape, or form that he was going to win that. So that's a great way to get to 2025 off to a great start for him. And Mr. Grizzly's back, so I'll save the other ones for later in the show. But there was a lot of winning and a lot of finals for Canadian tennis players last week. So the year ended strong for the players, and it's starting just as strong. So glad to have you back, sir.
Thanks. The coffee's just brewing. I've got some screw-ups here going on with my camera, so bear with me. We'll try and fix things. It's mirrored it for some reason, and I don't want it to do that. There we go. That should be better. I just switched over to a different camera for shits and giggles. How's that work? That looking okay? That's
looking. Yes, it's looking very well.
Okay, just trying to get the mic into frame here. Yeah, I'm just trying something different. So see how it works, just so that I can look directly at you. I'm using an old phone right now. And there's software that enables me to use an old phone, and I thought, you know what, it's got a good camera, why not? I do look a little out of focus though, and I don't know if it's running in 1080p. It should be, but I'll switch back to the other camera in just a minute. I just thought I'd give this a go and see how well it works, because why not? It's there. I'm always working on improving our studio setup and audio setup. Lighting, we're good. Cameras are a different story, as you know. I've had one that's been going haywire on me for a little while. I'm not happy about it, but I thought I'd give this a go and see how well it works for the time being.
All right, Mr. Grizzly. But you're back at the desk, right?
I am back at the desk, yes. But the coffee's just brewing. There was like literally a quarter cup left, so I thought I'd heat that up while it took me so long because I was taking the used coffee grounds and I went to toss them in the appropriate receptacle. And in doing so, I managed to drop them into Lola's water bowl and all over the floor.
Oh, no.
So I had to, rinse the bowl out and vacuum up the grounds, because I didn't want Lola to just come over and, ooh, what's that? Start sniffing it, get coffee grounds up her nose, and then all of a sudden she's wired. I didn't want that for good reason. So I thought,
if you haven't met Lola yet, Lola is a little naturally wired.
Yes, she doesn't need anything to get her going.
Yep.
So I had to clean up the mess, then grind some new beans and brew a pot of coffee. And it looks like I have enough to get a full cup. So if you hang on, I'll be back in just a minute. Thanks.
All right. Then I'll mention two other victories from our Canadians while we were there at a tournament in Le Lamentin in France. A young lady named Victoria Mboko, who's currently ranked between 300 and 400 in the world, won that title very handily, actually, 7-5, 6-3 in the final. And then Catherine Sebov, who also is between 300 and 400 in the world, was playing at a tournament in Naples, Florida, and won her final extremely handily, 6-2, 6-0. So just delivering the results that was absolutely clear. Yes, we did mention Felix's win. We also have another player who we've mentioned a few times on the show. His name is Liam Drexel. He was playing at a challenger event in Oeiras, Portugal, and he had a great run to the final himself. He was not even, was he ranked in this tournament? Yes, he was the 5th ranked player, but he was facing the number 1 player in that tournament in the final. And let's just put it this way: it was a bit of a tall task because Liam Drexel is ranked going into that tournament 208th in the world, and the guy who was number 1 was ranked 98th in the world.
Well,
So he had to take on a top 100 player. So he lost 6-1, 6-3, but he got to the final in a big, probably one of the biggest tournaments he's played in his career to date. And I think he's now gone full time because he used to play only portion of the year because he was playing on a university team in the United States, and would only play on the pro tour for during the off school year. But now this is his first year as a full year pro. So you'll probably be seeing him, given that he's about to enter the top 200 in the world. You'll probably start to seeing him and hearing him a lot, and seeing him on TV now and then. So he's starting to get to the big leagues. But we have a few of them like this. There's about in the men and the women, there's about when you put singles and doubles together, there's about like 8, 9, or 10 of them that are in the 200 to 300, 147, that just about to enter the top 100, that, they have a good run every now and then. Like this, you might seeing them on TV. So there's going to be a lot of new names that you're going to be hearing in the next 2 or 3 years. There's one young lady named Dasha Plekhanova, I think. She was nowhere before last year. And after 1 year, her first year, I think, playing on the circuit, jumped to 692 in the world from nowhere. It's just, I do not know what Tennis Canada is doing, but whatever it is, they need to bottle it and send it to all the sports.
Yes, I concur on that one. And also, have you noticed there's never been a whisper or a hint or a rumor or a mention of any sort of malfeasance or anything when it comes to Tennis Canada and their, unlike Soccer Canada, unlike Hockey Canada, there's never been a moment of inappropriateness, of mismanagement of funds. Now, again, I don't know that that's actually the case,
Right.
but there's never been a rumor or a hint or a mention or a whisper of anything like that. So maybe they should bottle that up, what their management style is, and send it to all the other organizations across the country. Because I've heard rumors about Swim Canada and Gymnastics Canada.
Oh, there's
rumors.
lots.
I'm not mentioning them on this show because they're merely rumors.
But we mentioned it. We talked when we had Devin on.
Yes.
I mean, there was a period. There was like Hockey Canada, Bobsleigh Canada, Boxing Canada, Gymnastics Canada, Alpine Ski Canada.
All of them.
And not all of them were sexual.
No.
Some of them were like bullying and just athlete abuse and overtraining and, not respect.
Which is Bobsleigh Canada, correct me.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes.
Right. And some of them even some mental anguish and stuff. But just all around poor treatment.
Yes, of everyone.
Of athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah, making it a way dangerous. I mean, there's a lot of these sports. I mean, swimming. I mean, you might get a rotator cuff issue, but there's a lot of these sports that are dangerous in their own right. Yes. Figure skating, gymnastics. Your body can only do so much. The aerials and skiing, moguls, like this. Where yes, push through to a certain extent, but there's good pain and then there's bad pain, right? And we've seen in tennis, we've seen it often. Like I remember there's this young lady named Jelena Dokic back in the day. Her father, she was coached by her father courtside. I think they had to like put a rule to say like you cannot come to her matches anymore. He was so abusive.
Yeah, that happens.
I mean, really abusive. But even like publicly, like people would see it like this, and she was like, just like, dude, it's like
kind of like the stage
one. Not only do you not have any mastery of yourself to be talking to anybody, let alone your daughter, like that, but in public, not even knowing where you are.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's humiliating already in private.
Yeah. It's in every sport, as Mademoiselle Fox says. It's in every sport. It is.
Yes. But they're doing something right at Tennis Canada now. At Tennis Canada, they involve the players a lot
Mm.
in decision making, so it might just be participative management having something to do with it.
Well,
But
yeah.
Tennis Canada is they've got it going on. Sorry, Mr. Grizzly.
Yeah, sorry, no, I'm just responding to a message from my mom.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You looked like you were about to jump in there with the sentence.
No, just responding to my mom.
Okay,
Wait,
cool.
look, the only time I drop what I'm doing, if my mom calls or my mom texts, I respond immediately.
Absolutely.
Immediately. There's no, you don't hold off on that. You respond immediately.
So you mind your mama.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm fortunate. I still have both my parents. They're still married. They're still blissfully happy. I recognize how lucky I am.
Mhm.
I do. I recognize how fortunate I am. Well, I wouldn't say that's white privilege, because it's not white privilege, but I do recognize my privilege, because it's privilege to have two healthy, happy parents who are still together and reach out to provide support when you need it, emotional or financial. And I get that in spades.
Yep. No, it's worth its weight in gold.
Although I admittedly, it's honest confession. Maybe I should save this for the ASMR, which I'm going to put on later today. But it's difficult to accept financial support from your parents as you rapidly approach the age of 57. It's difficult to have to accept it, but guess what? It's the situation I'm in. It's through no fault of my own that I'm unemployed.
No, that's what family's for.
Yeah. I guess it's because,
You protect your back.
Yes, but we here in the West tend to push the bootstrap mentality, right? Whereas families from Europe, South America, Asia, the continent of Africa, I find they tend to just, oh no, why would you leave the house? Why would you move out? You have a place to live here. We can support you. You can save money and invest so that you can get your down payment. Whereas we want to push the chicks out of the nest very young. It's sort of a different mentality in the West, and trying to wrap your head around the idea that there is support for you from your family when you need it. I got to wrap my mind around it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I know it's there. If I was to reach out and say I need this right now, within minutes I would have it. But I still, I'll have to be like literally at the end of my rope before I'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be at the end of my rope before I'll do it, because it's like, no, I still have a couple of bucks here. I got EI starting to roll in now. I mean, we're starting to generate revenue here, but it's I have to be at the end of my rope before I'll ask for help. And I don't know that that's healthy. I don't know that, I think we need to rethink how we do things in North America. And I have to wrap my mind around it as well, and just accept help when it's there, because you can't continue to refuse a life vest when you're floating in the North Atlantic. If somebody floats a door to you, get on it. See what I did there?
Yeah. You say that. It's like that God will provide joke.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know it?
Yeah. Yes. I sent you.
Yes. It said, yeah, cruise ship, a motorboat, and a rowboat. What more do you want?
What were you waiting for?
So, Mr. Grizzly, do you have the clip I sent you since we talked about Jaime Batist? Should be in your inbox.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I got it right.
Yeah.
Hang on.
He did an interview with APTN making his announcement. So, and I'm always,
how old is he?
always very happy.
He looks very young.
Oh, yes. Because I didn't mention it on the show, and I keep on intending to. Nate Erskine Smith, who's the Minister of Housing, broke all our hearts and decided to take a pass.
Yes.
As well. So this is also a lane that Jaime Batist can occupy.
Okay, I'll bring it up and we'll have a look at this. 1 second. Come on. There we go. All right.
Jaime, thank you so much for speaking with us today. My first question is, we hear that you have announced that you are running for the leader of the Liberal Party following Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's resignation. Can you tell us what made you make the decision to run?
Wala in Kristen, and Delby Banim in Jagu and Haginawadan and Delby. Thank you, Kristen. I figured the first words out of my mouth should be in Mi'kmaq in this because this is APTN and I'm a Mi'kmaq speaker. I was strongly encouraged and urged to do this. I was, once the Prime Minister stepped down, I had so many people reaching out to me saying, you need to throw your name in the ring. You need to be a strong Indigenous voice. You have a platform that no one else has. I was really, honored by that. And I said, I knew it was a real tough task. And I knew that $350,000 is a lot to raise. But I felt, there always has to be a first. And before there was a Premier Wab Kinew, there had to be an Elijah Harper. Before there was a President Obama, there had to be a Jesse Jackson. There always has to be someone who's the first to try, even if those first steps that they take are just to pave the way forward for future generations. And I felt I needed to create some excitement in this race to ensure that Indigenous voices were heard, reconciliation, environmental issues, social justice. These are what I continue to stand for, and I really believe that that's a big part of why I want to have my name on the ballot and to see if I can do this.
Jaime, what was your reaction of hearing the Prime Minister announcing that he was resigning? This was your leader.
Yeah, I was sad. I thought, and I said this on IPT, and I thought that this Prime Minister will go down in history as probably the best for Indigenous issues. Whenever I spoke to him on Indigenous issues, I really felt he cared. We had the first ever Supreme Court Justice. We have the first ever Indigenous Governor General. We have the first ever Indigenous Language Commissioner. We have so many historic firsts for Indigenous people because of him. And, I think that the work he did to advance Indigenous legislation, to advance a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, I was quite sad when he decided to step down, but I also knew it was an opportunity for other leaders to have their voices heard. And I really felt that, I had other people in mind for this. I didn't think that I was going to do this. I went to Ottawa last week, and I'm just troubled a little bit by the direction that I'm hearing. And I want to be that person who's on the ballot, who continues with the values of, the National Food Program, dental care, pharmacare, affordable child care, and housing supports. I think that we need to move forward on that. I don't think that people were tired of our policies. I think they just got tired of the Prime Minister as a person, and that's unfortunate.
I want to pause it right there for a second because this is probably the first time I've heard anybody in the party come out and praise him. I mean, seriously. When was the last time you heard somebody in the Liberal Party actually praise the PM for what he's done? The things that we keep talking about. And again, just because we're citing the good things that have been done by the country does not mean we support him. I need people to understand that. Because
we support good things being done for the country.
Yeah. I'm not a liberal cock when I point out the fact that the Prime Minister has done some transformative things for the country. But this is refreshing to hear. Let's see if we can get this man on the show.
Oh, that would be great.
I would love to have him on the show. There's a couple other people. We're trying to finagle a couple of interviews. I'm not going to tell you who, but we're working on a couple of things. Mr. Beaver has put the feelers out for a couple of different people, and if we can get them, they would be. I think we'd have a really wonderful chat with these folks. So anyway, we'll continue on.
Talking about some of those top priorities that you were just mentioning there, I also think about what Trump has been saying, south of the border. Are you hoping to address that too, if you were to become the leader of the Liberal Party? Yeah,
and who knew that in order to make America great again, you needed to add 40 million kind and caring Canadians. So I think that we have to be serious about what Trump is saying. We have to ensure that what we're doing is a good response. I think that we have a tremendous team in place with Dominic LeBlanc and Melanie Joly to address those in the short term. But also, as you know, there are treaties in Canada. There are treaties in the United States, and some of these tariffs are inconsistent with the treaties that we've signed with the President of the United States. And as someone who's Mi'kmaq, the first treaty that the United States signed in 1776 was with the Mi'kmaq Nation, the Watertown Treaty. And so I understand what the Trump administration is trying to do in terms of doing what they can to negotiate better terms, but they have to understand that they have constitutional responsibilities, as does Canada, and really the age of imperialism is over. So we need to respect Indigenous rights across Canada and North America when we're talking about the future of both of our great countries.
Well, Jaime, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for speaking with us, and definitely stay.
What an awesome dude.
Uh-huh.
What an awesome dude.
Uh-huh.
He's a young man he's smart. He knows what he's talking about.
The party has bench depth.
Yeah, it does. It does. This is promising. This is promising for the future of this country. When you see young people getting involved in politics, especially when you consider the climate today. And I don't mean the climate of what's going on outside your door. I mean the political climate and how social media, cyberbullying, pile-ons, the abuse hurled at individuals, not to mention that constituent offices, MPs' offices, and MPPs' offices, and MLAs, and MNAs, the way they get, rocks thrown at, a water bomb, paint bomb, blah, blah, blah. This young man, I don't know how old he is. He looks younger than me, I assume. He has his shit together and he's not afraid to go out there and fight. We need more people like that. We need more people like that.
He is 46.
Jaime Batist. He's 46. Jesus, I thought he was younger than that. I thought he was 30.
Me too. Damn, you look good.
Son, what's your skincare routine?
You've been drinking milk. Dang.
I'm only 10 years older than him.
Does the body good.
20. Yeah, no kidding.
Wow. He's been eating healthy.
We need more people like that involved in politics, and it's not going to be easy to get them because as Locke has said, as we have said, as so many other people have noted, the more toxic the environment, the more difficult it is to get people involved, because why would I want to put myself through that, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what we're facing right now. Why would I want to put myself through that kind of torture and humiliation and public dragging through the town square?
Mm-hmm. Now, Batiste is also the chair of the Liberal Indigenous Caucus in the party. There's a note here from him that's probably similar to what he stated on the show, but I will put it up here so I can read it to you. But this is what he sent out when he was announcing. He said, Kwe, greetings, bonjour. I would like to start by thanking the Prime Minister for his service, for inspiring me to run for office in 2019, and for believing that there was a place for a Mi'kmaq living on reserve on his team. Our government has made significant progress during my 6 years in Parliament, and I've witnessed him build a kind and caring Canada, one that cares for human rights, reconciliation, and protecting our environment. We've made tremendous investment across the country throughout the Atlantic, and have built a dynamic Cape Breton currently experiencing an economic boom. Moving forward, the Liberal Party of Canada must now decide on its next leader, a fresh set of ideas, and the path forward for our country. I have been truly honored and humbled by the outpouring of support I've received from the Indigenous leaders, friends, and citizens across the country that have urged me to consider making history again, this time by putting my name forward for the 2025 leadership. I've heard your voice, and with your help, I'm interested. I am laying the groundwork for an exploratory team that will seek to launch the first campaign by an Indigenous candidate for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada, and to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. This is an ambitious vision, and I'm fully aware of the complexity of raising $350,000 over the next 12 days. However, I do have a plan. But before I talk about the how, I want to talk about the why. My vision for politics has always been one of collaboration between all levels of government, and in my time as a member of parliament and as chair of the Liberal Indigenous Caucus, I've worked to fulfill that vision. My view for Canada is one that prioritizes protecting human rights, reconciliation, and environmental sustainability for future generations. I believe in innovative product policies like the National School Food Program, the Canadian Dental Care Plan, pharmacare, affordable childcare, and comprehensive housing supports. These initiatives are essential in order to build and grow a just society. Canadians care about the future of our children, our seniors, neighbors, and equality. If successful, I will continue to be an advocate for change and to be guided by values that seek to improve quality of life for all Canadians. I know this won't be easy, and I am willing to put in the work that would be required to be a candidate for the 2025 leadership. But I will need your support. Should you wish to come on board our journey, reach out. More information on how you can support our campaign will be provided in the coming days. I can't do this alone, and I'll need all the help I can get. Before there was a Premier Wab Kinew, there had to be an Elijah Harper. Before there was a President Barack Obama, there had to be a Jesse Jackson. There must always be people willing to try, and there must always be people willing to take the first steps, even if their journey is one meant to pave the way for future generations. It's time to get excited about the 2025 leadership, and I'm asking you to register as a member of the Liberal Party of Canada so that you can help make history too. There's no fee, and the registration is quick and simple. Your voice can be heard on who should and will be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. If you are a Canadian citizen or permanent resident and are over the age of 14, you can make a difference in this race. You can register online at the following link, which he puts there. By the way, if he puts the one in French, Chefferie, so CHEFFERIE 2025 leadership, all in one word, .liberal.ca. I'm asking you to become a member of the Liberal Party of Canada by January 27th, 2025, so that you are eligible to vote and make your voice heard. Whether you hail from a rural or northern community or an urban city, a coastal town, or First Nations, you're saying the 2025 leadership is only possible if you register, get involved, and be part of our shared future. Let's continue to build together and work to make history once again. Thank you. Merci, miigwech. Hai, welalin. So, I'm excited about this. I am very excited about this. And I hope he raises the money. He should be able to raise the money for something historic like this.
I hope so.
Canada, you better get this man the money. This is positive. There's nothing negative about this at all. All of this is good. More power. Go Jaime. And yes, I will definitely reach out and see if he wants to come on. Because yes, we need to support and encourage this. All right, Mr. Grizzly. There's one other thing I want to give you. Could you talk for 1 second if you've got anything?
That.
No, but I mean not just talk, but I mean if you've got something, please.
Yes,
please
of course I do. I wanted to. I'd love to be able to show you a clip from last night's Mark Carney interview. Unfortunately, we'll get copyright dings, so I'm not going to do it because it creates a whole problem for us if I do. But I do want to address something from Robin Urbach. Urbach or Urbach? I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but once again, she does the dumb thing. She's right twice a day like any broken clock, but it's this one. I'm going to highlight this by showing it to you. I'll put it on the screen and we'll have a discussion about this because it's just, oh really? Seriously? You actually went there? You're not, are you doing this to be a provocateur or are you that dumb? Says, I genuinely do not understand the attack here. Trudeau was at Mar-a-Lago a month ago. It's because Talib Noor Mohammed said South Night Canadian edition at Mar-a-Lago. And I'll click on that to show you. And there it is, Kevin O'Leary and Daniel Smith and Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
All buddy with Air Drumpf. There he is getting ready to bow down and kiss the ring.
Right? Until they start fighting about who gets to be governor.
Exactly. And she's like, I don't understand the attack here. Trudeau was at Mar-a-Lago a month ago. Key differences. Smith hasn't spoken out against the 51st state crap. Peterson talks down to Canada at every turn. O'Leary is advocating for an integration with the U.S. PMs. Trudeau is Canada's PM and has been vocal in defending our independence, as have people from other parties. Oh, sorry,
Yep.
that's an ad. And was he, Max Fawcett, was he there in lockstep with someone who has repeatedly talked about wanting to create an economic union with the United States? Sassy Sally Ann, I don't believe you. I think you understand exactly why, but you've allowed your irrational hatred of the current PM to destroy any journalistic integrity you may have had. It's been sad to watch. You know exactly why this is a bad look. You've lost your way and in turn any respect. Larry Douglas, if you don't get the difference, then you should not be a journalist. Bernard Rulinski, difference is Trudeau was trying to help Canada. Wacky Smith, not so much. Probably trying to tell Trump to lay off the chemtrails.
Ooh. The Prime Minister went down as the Prime Minister of Canada.
Correct. Yeah.
To negotiate interests. Daniel Smith, who was already planning to take a 6-day vacation to DC for the inauguration on your dime, happens to be in the United States way before 6 days before the 20th. 2 days at Mar-a-Lago. Invited by Kevin O'Leary. Is Kevin O'Leary the person who scored her the inauguration tickets for her? What did she have to do to get them? Because Kevin O'Leary wanted that meeting with Trump, appears to have got it, and has been given 2 assignments. Number 1, it would appear, is label Gavin Newsom as the Canadian Justin Trudeau. So take out Gavin Newsom for Trump, because Trump, even though he doesn't necessarily say things, he is the type of person that manages to somehow have everything fall his way without getting his oh so very soft and tender hands dirty.
Well, let's have a listen to.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. I can't reach you.
No. So they're there, and she's at Mar-a-Lago 2 extra days early, and you had that photo that you showed the other day that it looked like Kevin O'Leary was officiating the wedding ceremony. And by the way, if you saw Kevin O'Leary on Power and Politics the other day, being as usual, charming self, he was basically talking to David Cochrane in the sense like, this economic union is happening, get used to it, type of thing. We'll worry about that a little later, Felicia, because it seems that the second part of his mandate somehow is to be the conduit that links Danny to Trump for whatever hostile corporate takeover that's going on. And let's not be kidding here. Mr. Wonderful, one as in O-N-E, because that's the only one he's thinking about, is smelling the blood in the water between Trump and Elon. And he wants to be the alleged billionaire.
Apparently he's not worth as much money as he's like
to
have us think.
No, exactly. But he wants to be the alleged billionaire, so-called first lady. He doesn't want Musk there at all. And Kevin O'Leary is let's just say that there are certain things that have been the news surrounding him in the past that would make one believe that maybe he is the type of person that has the gift of the lack of scruples required to push someone like an Elon Musk out.
Yes. I actually had a friend, when Kevin O'Leary was musing about running for leader of the Conservative Party, I had a friend who, she said, hey, I have a chance to go to work for him. And I'm like, oh, please don't do that. She goes, no, it's a good PR job. It's because this is what it was in her line of work. And I'm like, please don't do that. I'm like, the guy is a narcissist. He will use you up and throw you away like he does everybody. He's a wannabe Donald Trump. She ended up working for him, and I ended up being correct about everything I told her about him.
Oh.
And she took an emotional hit after that, and mental, and kind of disappeared from everybody for a while. She's doing good now, but it really was a blow to her. And I never said I told you so, because I wouldn't do that, because I know how dangerous and damaging that can be.
Yes.
But, it was one of those moments like, are you okay? I didn't gloat. I didn't say you should have listened. Nothing like that. It's just like, are you okay? And we've not been in touch in a few years now, but that was a really serious blow to her mental health. And she was already fighting some internal demons, and things didn't go well. She's doing good now, but she had a few rough years there. So I do have a clip here of O'Leary with David Cochrane that I want to show you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it the one where he's doing that?
Well,
it's like it's happening.
Yeah.
I don't want to play the whole. Okay. He's just so annoying.
I know.
And he gets enough airtime. Okay.
You're a Canadian citizen, and this is economic Armageddon if these tariffs come in, as you well know. Unemployment is going to go through the roof. Economic growth is going to go down. Provincial governments.
I appreciate you saying that, but neither of us know. We just don't know. You've got to wait. My point is, wouldn't you rather have your adversary's cell phone number on speed dial? I would.
No, look,
only one. I only one in Canada that was smart enough to go and meet him.
Well, I mean, Prime Minister Trudeau and Dominic LeBlanc did go have dinner with him at Mar-a-Lago, right?
Excuse me. Let me just make a. I asked Trump to ignore those meetings because those people are going to get eradicated in the next election, and I hope he took my advice. Stop wasting your time with Trudeau and any of the cabinet. They're going to get eradicated.
But
this guy's an asshole.
On me.
Understood, but it is the government we have at this point in time, you know, with a week to go until the inauguration and possibly the implementation of tariffs. So you're saying it is unclear to you if he's going to do this.
What I told Trump was it's the government that took a quarter of the Canadian population into poverty, and they're going soon.
Okay.
They will not be at a theater near you anytime soon.
Okay, but for the next week, they're there, Mr. O'Leary, right? And this is the deadline for the tariffs, right? Because if you take Donald Trump by his statement that
My point
day
is,
one...
You don't know that. You don't know that.
I'm taking him at his word. What am I supposed to do? He hasn't said anything to the contrary that I'm not actually going to do it. He said I'm going to hit them. It's going to be day one, along with mass deportations. You have been there talking to him. Are you saying we shouldn't expect that? Because the Canadian economy and the political class is bracing for it.
You are not able to separate the signal from the noise. You can't do it. You're just listening to the noise and you're reporting it and you're actually accelerating the hype around it. You are not distinguishing the signal. You don't get it. This is a large, difficult negotiation we're starting, and it goes towards an economic union. That's where we're going. Get over it.
Okay, but if it is an economic union, why doesn't the president-elect say that rather than talk about tariffs, fentanyl, and migrants crossing the border? Like, politicians, when they lay out very clear things...
You have been listening to Trump for 12 years. You asked me that question? That's not his style. That's not how he operates. You know that.
Jesus Christ, this guy's an obnoxious prick. I do love how David Cochrane brought out the Newfoundland fight in him there. Oh, hold on. He did not back.
We can't know. We can't know. We can't know. And you won't know till it happens. So sign over everything and then see if it happens. And if it doesn't work out for you, well, you've already signed over anything. So fuck you. But literally, we can't know. It's like, he said it. What else are we supposed to go on?
He said it.
What else are we supposed to go on? We don't know. What else are we supposed to go on, dude? The economic union is happening. Get over it. It's like, again, I told him not to listen to so again, it's like when he comes back to the country, is it treason or sedition?
Yeah.
Which one is it? I sent you a couple of links and stuff, Mr. Grizzly. One is a clip of the Prime Minister on the Jen Psaki show. He gave a pretty good interview there, and then a couple of they're just some screenshots for the Easter eggs and stuff, and screenshots of Jenny Byrne behaving badly.
Well, that's not difficult to find. I mean,
I guess, but yeah, it's pretty obvious that they're. But it's pretty obvious that they're afraid of Carney, and it's pretty obvious that the candidates that are coming in know where Pierre's weaknesses are and where his not only weaknesses but his personal triggers. I mean, clearly he's very, very, very hyper focused on his looks. and trying to present this alpha image. So, Mark Carney skating, and even Jonathan Wilkinson got in on it a little bit, actually.
Oh, yes.
So there's some interesting photos for you to see. Just had some color and texture to the context. But before, I just wanted to present this interview clip of the Prime Minister on Jen Psaki's show, again, to provide a juxtaposition of contrast between what you're going to see, because you saw Mark Carney, you're going to see the Prime Minister now, you're going to see how they handle themselves in interview. I want you to compare and contrast with the way that Pierre Poilievre handled himself in that presser, with the way Jagmeet Singh handled himself in that presser. And look what we're throwing away, but look like we will have the opportunity to gain, at least with Carney, or Batist. How they handle themselves, or Wilkinson. How they, I guess, normal people who can have conversations, answer questions, not attack journalists, and not lose mastery of themselves.
So you want to look at you want to start with the Jen Psaki?
And then we'll compare and contrast to how the Conservatives are reacting, because they're completely calm.
Joining me now is the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. Prime Minister Trudeau, it's great to see you. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy visit to Washington to join me here in studio.
I'm glad to be here.
And you're, of course, here for the state funeral of former President Carter. Canada has also been assisting in responding to the wildfires out in California, including with Canadian water bombers in the sky, which I know is something greatly appreciated by the people of California. I wanted to ask you, it is clearly a fraught time in U.S.-Canada relations. And this all seems to me to be a clear effort and concerted effort to make clear to the public that this is an important relationship, that Canada is committed to this relationship. Is that a fair read?
Well, I was going to be here no matter what, whenever President Carter passed away, because he'd shown up for my father 25 years ago during my father's funeral, and it was a tremendous friendship, not just between our countries, but between those two men. So being there for him was important for me. In regards to the fires, well, we went through some horrific fires over the past years as well, and American firefighters showed up for us, and we're glad to help out in any way. Unfortunately, we have now a developed level of expertise around wildfire interface with urban areas where we're there to help out with, whether it's transport planes or Coast Guard cutters or water bombers or even firefighters. It's all there to help our friends in California.
No, it's greatly appreciated, the contributions that they're making. You may disagree with my suggestion that it's a fraught relationship, but I think some see it that way. But I think one of the reasons is because Donald Trump is, of course, going to be inaugurated in just over a week from now. He has been pushing this idea of making Canada the 51st state. I know that's not something you've taken too kindly to, but how seriously do you take that threat?
I mean, let's remember, I got to work with President Trump through his first 4 years in office, and we were able to renegotiate the most important trade deal either of us have, which is the Canada-U.S. free trade deal, in a way that was beneficial to both our countries. And I know that as a successful negotiator, he likes to keep people a little off balance. The 51st state, that's not going to happen. It's just a non-starter. Canadians are incredibly proud of being Canadian, but people are now talking about that as opposed to talking about, for example, what the impact of 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum coming into the United States, on energy, whether it's oil and gas or electricity. I mean, no American wants to pay 25% more for electricity or oil and gas coming in from Canada. And that's something that I think people need to pay a little more attention to. And perhaps the idea of a 51st state is distracting a little bit from a very real question that will increase the cost of living for Americans and harm a trading relationship that works extremely well.
It's not just Canada. He's talking about taking over Greenland and the Panama Canal, in addition to annexing Canada through economic force, as he said. Do you think is this bullying? Is it trolling? Or should we not take seriously his expansionist desires?
No. I think we definitely need to take that seriously. I think from my very first conversations with him way back in 2016, he told me how much he admires Canada, how much he appreciates and likes us. So I think there is a certain amount of flattery in this, that he thinks that we are as great as we are. He's right. We are great. We're also very, very proud of being Canadian. If you talk to any Canadian, you ask them to define what it is to be a Canadian, they'll talk about all sorts of different things. But one of the things we will point out is, and we're not Americans.
I mean, he's been calling you the 51st governor. Do you take that as a compliment? Does that not bother you at all? How do you feel about that?
I've been in politics an awfully long time. I tend to focus on the substantive things and not on people choosing nicknames for me. I mean, if I was that thin-skinned, I probably wouldn't last that long in politics.
That is fair. You did make a trip down to Mar-a-Lago, and you did meet with the former and future president. What was that like? Tell me about that conversation.
It was nice to reconnect with him. Obviously, we had some good conversations about what we were going to be able to do together. He very clearly expressed what he had talked about in his tweet a few days before, that he has concerns about the border between Canada and the United States, particularly around migration and around fentanyl. I was pleased to highlight that less than 1% of the illegal migrants, less than 1% of the fentanyl that comes into the United States comes from Canada. So we're not a problem, but we're happy to, and we've actually responded to his request for us to do more with billions of dollars worth of investments to even further strengthen the security at our borders.
I'm assuming he didn't bring up his intention to publicly say he was going to annex through economic means your country.
It actually sort of came up at one point, and then we started musing back and forth about this. And when I started to suggest, well, maybe there could be a trade for Vermont or California for certain parts, he immediately decided that it was not that funny anymore, and we moved on to a different conversation. So this isn't out of the blue that he's doing this, but my focus has to be not on something that he's talking about that will not ever happen, but more on something that might well happen, that if he does choose to go forward with tariffs that raise the cost of just about everything for American citizens, that on top of that, we're going to have a robust response to that.
I want to ask you about your decision to resign, but you're staying on until the party elects a new leader sometime in March, but between now and then, the parliament is suspended. So for the American public, for others watching right now who are trying to understand what levers you have if he isn't listening to this rational argument, what are you prepared to do if he actually does this into the first couple weeks of his presidency?
As we did last time, we are ready to respond with tariffs as necessary. You may remember when Donald Trump put tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, which did nothing but raise the cost of steel and aluminum for American consumers. We responded by putting tariffs on things like bourbon, Harley Davidsons, orange juice, playing cards, these sorts of things that Canadians could find replacements for, so they wouldn't have to pay more for that money. And it ended up causing a lot of loss in American businesses for whom Canada is their #1 export partner. We are the #1 export partner of about 35 different U.S. states, and anything that thickens the border between us ends up costing American citizens and American jobs. That's not what President Trump got elected to do. I know he got elected to try and make life easier for all Americans, to support American workers. These are things that are going to hurt them.
Let me ask you about your decision to resign more broadly. And you've obviously talked publicly about this, but there are trends around the world that we've seen here in the United States. We've seen them across Europe. Obviously, you've been impacted by them. We're incumbents. It's an anti-incumbency movement around the world.
Yeah.
You also said when you resigned that you wanted to give your party a chance to win. So I think from your perspective, I'm wondering, is it more of a global trend issue in terms of where your approval ratings are now, which is the lowest they've been in your nearly 10 years? Or is it a you issue, as people should understand it?
Well, I think it's probably a bit of everything. I mean, right now there's a political cycle where incumbents, particularly those who steered us through COVID, I mean, Canada did extraordinarily well through COVID, better than just about every other peer, tens of thousands fewer deaths proportionately than our friends and allies around the world. Inflation hit less hard. Our economy bounced back faster. It was good, but there is still a lingering frustration towards incumbents. And for me, where I lean in on is all the good things we were able to do. We've put forward policies that are going to make a difference for decades to come in Canada. And I think right now we're seeing a time in politics where emotions and social media is carrying an awful lot of weight in how people feel about things. But I'm always going to lean back on what are the substantive things that are being done? What are the substantive measures that make a big difference in people's lives? And standing up for the vulnerable, supporting people who need it, building an economy that works for the middle class. These are things that ultimately make the biggest difference in people's lives.
One of the challenges or the things the Democratic Party here in the United States has been grappling with post-election is this critique that they're out of touch with the public. And that's one of the critiques of the Liberal Party in Canada as well. You've obviously made a decision to resign. Are there any lessons that can be learned from your time and what you've experienced for people here in the United States, Democratic Party?
One of the things that progressives, whether they're Liberals or Democrats on either side of the border, need to remain focused on is cost of living and the economy. We're projected to have the fastest growing economy in the G7, even faster than the United States next year. These are things that we did because we made sure that there were fewer barriers for minorities and women and vulnerable people to participate in the workforce. That's an economic narrative. That's understanding that you do better when everyone has a chance to contribute fully. But you can easily turn that into a woke argument that says, oh, you're just, working for minorities and women and you're not taking care of the economy. Well, the capacity of the political right and, quite frankly, social media to gin up that kind of dynamic and fall into culture wars and divisions that actually don't stand up to the hard economic truth of the growth we've been able to create in Canada is part of the challenge we have. And that's part of the challenge we're facing as a world right now, where people are very much in a place where affordability, where reasonable answers, where medium and long-term policies aren't what they want to hear about. They want things to get better right away. And you do have people promising to make things better right away, which is very attractive sometimes, even if the ability to do that isn't always clear.
Before I let you go, you've been you've been the Prime Minister for nearly 10 years. It's going to be a strange adjustment, I assume. What are you most looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to resting, to taking a bit of a break, to, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, spending more time with my kids. My kids have, my two older kids have about a year and a half left in high school before they go off to university. The idea of being there for them as an active dad, making lunches and home when they get home from school is something that's really, really exciting to me. That I got into politics because I have kids, not in spite of my kids. I want to serve and build a better world. I think we did some really big things over these almost 10 years. Now it's time to be able to focus on ourselves as a family.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, it's a pleasure.
Again, this is what we're throwing away.
Yeah.
When our alternatives are Pierre and Jagmeet.
Well, let's not rule out Ms. May. I think we should actually talk to people and say, you know what?
Yes.
I think she could do it. I'm going to switch back to my other camera because this one's gone a little haywire on me. So
okay, but you will notice in there again that he makes the case about distractions, and we're not talking about, because the audience for this one is an American audience. That's intended. So, he's subtly making the points again that, everything's going to cost 25% more, and that Trump is talking about Canada to distract you from how much your bills are going to go up, Americans.
Mm-hmm.
brushes off the 51st estate thing. We get a little more information about Trump to the Americans that, oh yeah, we were musing about, but then when I said, hey, maybe you can trade in California, why not? Oh, then he didn't think it was very funny anymore. He stopped.
Funny how that works out, eh? Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? If you're wondering what, like how that 51st governor thing, that's probably how it started. Trudeau probably did do that. Yes. And then Donald Trump does what he does, like at the meeting after Charlevoix, right? As he's on the plane or the back, like, can't believe Justin Trudeau did this to me. He's violent. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, nobody did anything to you, princess.
Nobody did anything.
Anything. So
in
like
response
so
to this
he makes
question,
the guess.
How does May get elected without the seats? We need more Green candidates. There's Green candidates in every riding across the country.
Yes, they run a full slate.
They just
have
need to
for
get
like
elected.
several
That's all.
elections. They just need to get elected. People
Yes,
just need to vote
that's
for
it.
them.
That's why I complained a few years ago when they didn't want Ms. May to sit in on the debate. They said, well, they don't have enough seats. They shouldn't. I go, but the difference between her and the Bloc Québécois is Ms. May's party is coast to coast. They run in all 338 ridings. The Bloc only represents Quebec.
Mhm.
So, they're like, yeah, I know they don't have any seats, but they're actually running in every riding in the country. And the Bloc is only running in the province of
And they
Quebec.
also
So
have provincial wings.
correct. So if you're going to disallow her because she doesn't have enough seats, well, then you have to disallow the Bloc because they don't represent Canada. They only represent Quebec. And people got a little pissed at me for that. And I go, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Nobody could.
And look, the first versions of the Reform Party didn't run many candidates this side of Ontario,
Nope.
the other side of Ontario. And in Ontario, it was a smattering as well. The first time the Reform Party made the parliament, when the Bloc Québécois was the official opposition by a few seats, it's like there wasn't that much Ontario and East content
Mm-hmm.
in that party. It's like people keep on, again, it's like a national party for the purpose of an election is a party that is registered with Elections Canada to run. That's a national party. You can run in just one seat. If you're registered with Elections Canada, you're a national party. So that's all. It's not some big description. I've seen some chat here on with the kits. How come they're election campaigning? Should we write to Elections Canada? Yeah, don't bother wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
Elections Canada is very clear. There is a writ period,
Correct,
and a non-writ period. And in the non-writ period, you can spend whatever you want. That's why the Conservatives raise so much money and bombard us with these information videos and whatnot 24/7 hours because they've got the money and they need to do something with it. Because once the writ period starts, it doesn't matter how much money you have, there's a cap.
Correct.
You might not have enough money fundraised to spend all you can and meet the cap, but if you've got more than it, you can't use it. You just can't. So those are the rules. So yes, it is annoying. And then there are rules that apply to third parties as well, like this. What you can do outside, and then within and during a writ period. Doug Ford just did this thing in Ontario. I think that made it so that third party advertisers can't really advertise for a full year before an election or something ridiculous, in order to make sure that there's nothing bad being said about them by people who can't organize, for a good long time before he actually takes the plunge.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but yes, the writ period and out of writ period really do matter. And I don't think that you owe anything to Elections Canada in any time that you're not in a writ period for that type of purpose. Do your own research on that, but I do believe that that's the basis for if everybody's wondering how did they get away with all this spending. It's just because we're not, even though they are campaigning, it is not an election period, and therefore election period laws do not apply to non-campaign periods. Even if you are doing electioneering activities, it's only the campaign period it would appear. So again, deft answers, being able to answers that we've heard before, but framed a little differently. You can see the difference between the first interview that we showed you the other day, which was on US TV, CNN, but would give you that's more for that was really more for Canadian audience when he was there because it was the first time. This one, you can tell the Sunday morning political shows, and this one was really for the American audience. So you can see the different spin on the answers, similar answers, but just worked a different way. So, hey, Americans, did you know? But without going, hey, Americans, did you know? He's doing this to you. Be scared. Like this calm, cool, diplomatic, just flip.
That's how
we're losing this.
Michael Moore pointed that out in a documentary he shot years ago, and I think it was about healthcare. And he showed American news, killer escalators in the shopping mall, and then he showed Canadian news. Well, we're going to wait and take a wait and see approach to how the opponent responds in this particular. Like, he goes calm, cool, collected, measured, not hyperbolic, not over the top. Not trying to entice you for clicks or views. A Canadian way of doing things.
Yeah.
That's been lost a little bit in the House of Commons thanks to Skippy and Skippy's master, Jenny Byrne.
Yes. Yes. So with the departure of Anita Anand, Erin O'Toole had some nice words to say to Anita Anand. Because as we mentioned before, Anita Anand is an extremely, extremely competent person who clearly cares about doing a quality job. And Mr. Erin O'Toole had eyes and ears, was able to see and hear it, and appreciated it as someone who was a member of the military, even though he did inexplicable things to his colleagues while he was in government. But we will skip over that and assume that there was a period of time that Erin O'Toole decided that he tried to be a good party guy, and that Erin O'Toole is back to Erin O'Toole.
I wonder something about Erin O'Toole, and this is a loud thought, an out loud thought, if you will, because since he stepped out of his position, I've noticed his responses have been that of a decent, kind, caring, compassionate Canadian. So I wonder if when he was the leader, was Jenny Byrne steering him in the direction of pointing to an outhouse and saying that's Trudeau's office?
It would appear so by what's going to come next. So what did Erin O'Toole write?
I saw the dedication Anita Anand MP brought to national defense at a time it was desperately needed. She cared deeply about the Canadian Armed Forces, their families, and the need for Canada to do more. I wish her fair winds and following seas.
Okay, now before we talk about this, remember we had that article about you cannot consort in any way, shape, or form with the enemy or else?
Yeah.
Jenny Byrne leading by example.
For anyone unsure why Erin is no longer leader of the Conservative Party, she supported DEI policies like name, rank, and pronouns, tampons in men's room, etc. Mark Miller, some classlessness from Pierre Poilievre's top advisor towards former Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, who was just one more veteran they screwed over. And from Andrew Coyne. This one I think is rather interesting. Just not an ounce of ordinary human decency. He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Not wrong at all.
And then from Dave Gray,
who was on our show.
JFC. The extent to which conservative politics has turned into a middle school production of Lord of the Flies is astonishing. Bring back some serious candidates with accomplished backgrounds who aren't busy calling each other. I'm not going to say that. It's the F word and it's not UCK.
Yeah.
A slur. I'm not going to say it. Claire Blackwood, who I follow and love her writing, her work. She's a comedian. She writes for the Beaverton, amongst others. Poilievre's chief advisor just saying the quiet parts of his future government out loud.
Yep.
This is who they are. Remember, when people
Erin
show you who they are.
Erin O'Toole says, you had a great career. Respect your dedication. If you're wondering why he's not party leader anymore, what you're saying is, if you're wondering why he's not party leader anymore, it's just because he wasn't a big enough dick for my liking. Let me show you how it's done, Aaron.
What? Like, I literally sent a tweet to her the other day about that, and I said, "Who hurt you?" And I genuinely mean that. Who hurt
This
you?
is not a normal human reaction to a
No,
text
it's not.
congratulating someone, a tweet to congratulating someone. It's like on a good career and their dedication.
This is someone who is filled with hate and rage. Why? Why are you so angry about a former colleague saying congratulations on a great career and your accomplishments and how much work you did that was good for Canadians? Like, what the hell?
Normal people don't do that.
No.
Well-adjusted people don't do that.
Let's take the word normal out of there. Most human beings don't do that.
I consider most people to be normal.
No, but your
I know
definition of normal, it's a sliding
the
scale,
standard,
right?
yes.
A standard,
But
yes. The common sense.
yes, someone with common sense is someone who has enough emotional maturity to have control over themselves in public doesn't lose their shit in public like this.
There's your common sense conservative, the one who's pulling the puppet strings, Jenny Byrne, your common sense conservative, insulting her former colleague for congratulating somebody who did a wonderful job. That's your common sense conservative, folks.
And again,
that's
saying like
what you'll get with Pierre Poilievre.
And stuff like DEA policies and tampons in the bathroom, like we mentioned yesterday, completely negates being the absolute person that got all the vaccines in and coordinated everything, and every department that she's been in that made sure that the sexual assault cases left the military and got treated in regular court. That none of that matters, right?
If you're getting bent out of shape over seeing tampons in a men's room, seek therapy immediately. That does not negatively impact your life in any way, shape, or form. And as a matter of fact, it may be a positive influence on your life, because what if one of your colleagues needed a tampon and they're all out in the women's restroom?
Yeah.
So you run to the men's room and go, here you go.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
How does that negatively impact anyone?
They've got no solutions for the things that really matter, so they want you to get upset about tampon. Like there's this other guy that turned around and said, like, if you're getting tampons in the bathroom, we want something. If women are getting tampons in the bathroom, we want free stuff too. Okay, how about a complimentary vasectomy every time you use the potty?
Well,
you said you wanted free stuff. You weren't very specific on what you wanted. It's like, okay, I vote for vasectomies.
For years, and you don't see it as much anymore, but for years, public washrooms in office buildings, government buildings had bowls of condoms, prophylactics.
Yep. There. Back to, as we're going to close the show here, the Christy Clark thing I mentioned at the beginning, that makes it even worse. This is from December 17th, 2019, CBC, British Columbia, CBC. Quote, I'm really not thinking about it. Christy Clark says she's not interested in federal conservative leadership. Former BC Liberal Premier Christy Clark says she's not considering running for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada at the moment. In a television interview Tuesday with Vashi Kapelos, host of CBC's Power and Politics, Clark said the only things on her mind are an upcoming trip and her son coming home for Christmas. I'm going to India for a week, and I'm going to go to India, and I'm thinking about all the great things that could be my future. I think there's a lot of them that would work, that would maybe be more relaxing than being the leader of the federal party. Kapelos followed out with the answer, but you haven't ruled it out. I'm not really thinking about it at the moment anyway. I'm kind of, my son's home from university. It's Christmas, for heaven's sake, Clark responded.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then there's another article out there. It's like, saying, I've been asked, I've been approached, I'm considering, but so the lifelong, I'm going to guess that my question of yesterday, when they asked, because you can't be a member of the federal Liberal Party and the federal Conservative Party at the same time, and there is, according to Jenny Byrne, evidence of her membership, and Christy said, well, I wasn't a registered Liberal at that time. Were you just not a registered Liberal for that 1 year or for a while? Well, if people were courting her to run for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada in 2019. I'm going to guess that her Liberal membership had lapsed for more than 1 year.
In all likelihood, yes. All signs point to yes.
Yeah. Listen, if she's going to enter the race anyway, because when she was on the current thing, their big announcement was supposed to be that she doesn't support the carbon tax under the form that Trudeau has it, because the one in BC was different. I'm not sure how it came into being, but when she was premier, she had capped it at a certain amount, and then it changed again. I think under the current new Democrat now, there's no rebates and there's no anything. I don't know how long ago. I don't know if there were rebates or at the beginning, and it stopped in BC or whatnot. But in BC, the carbon tax rate did get capped under her. Wasn't going up after a certain amount of time.
Right.
But that was supposed to be her big announcement, and. I'm different from Justin Trudeau because I don't support the carbon tax. And well, the interview ended up being about whether or not she was a lifelong Liberal or not.
Mm-hmm.
So probably, again, not ready.
I don't support the carbon tax that the government put in place in British Columbia before I was elected to office.
Yes. Which was kind of modeled.
Yeah,
I know. It's just really weird.
Well, Pierre Poilievre, carbon tax Clark. It was
Queen of carbon tax.
It was in place 3 years before she was elected.
I know.
But don't let the truth stand in the way of a good tale. Right?
He will say anything. There's somebody that sent me something the other day on that. They looked up his crime statistics. I'll have to read them into another show. But it's like, I'm like, well, where did you find this? She says, I'm always willing to help for that type of stuff. If it means proving that Pierre's a liar, I'm always willing to help. Thank you very much. I can get down with that.
Well, okay. I talked to my buddies the other day, Friday, because we did the Friday show on Poilievre. We did the Q&A part yesterday, but on Friday we talked about, in the first 5 minutes, he lied about 20 times. And I was telling my buddies this, and they go, really? And I go, dude, they're not even easily arguments. They're not even easy arguments. It's like, that's a bald-faced lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. They're like, settle down. And I go, what do you mean? This guy wants to become the next prime minister and he can't tell the truth for 5 minutes? That is not the person you want in that position. It's not.
Definitely not the person you want in that position. Oh boy. Okay, Kits and Cubs. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
All right, Kits and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Now, if you are listening to us in the podcast format, ears only, and don't want to miss an episode, well, hey, we've got a deal for you. Podpage. Ding, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. Sponsored by the Ray Girl. And if you're watching, if you scan that QR code, go there, you click subscribe, boom. When we have something fresh off the bandwidth, comes directly to you. Don't even have to go looking for it. We deliver. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, you need to make your way to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where Kit Elaine and Kit Cassie are waiting there for you to direct you to click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Smash with them. Get freaky even. What you do in the privacy of your own home, that's up to you. We don't judge, so long as you click them. All right. Now, if you'd like to help us in other ways, then the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you to our coffee page. And if you are listening, that's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there you will find the emergency hydration fund or our tip jar. So if you feel that we have been very, very good beavers and grizzly, and you would like to keep your beaver moist, then you would probably want to drop a few coins.
Jesus Christ.
What? We've done the scientific data. Our kids do not like dry beaver. they just do not. So if you would like to keep your beaver moist, please drop a little bit of coinage in our tip jar.
Nothing to say about that. It's just
we have to be a little cheeky. It's fun. So
that's a lot cheeky.
But please, yes, it's beyond cheeky, I know. But if you would, but cheeky.
But if you would like, spread the word, if you would, please.
Yes, yes. Help spread the word, spread your beaver. So if you would like to make some donations there, you go to our coffee page, and we appreciate everything that you leave us. Now, if you're not able to make a financial contribution, Eager Beaver. Nights. Yes. Late night beaver. We have that for you too every now and then. You never know.
Well, yeah, we haven't done a late night show in a while, but at some point.
But we will have one with Miss Emily when she comes back from vacation.
Yes, and we're looking at also doing sort of a fundraiser telethon thing, and we're raising funds for ourselves to keep the channel going, kind of like PBS does, if you will. So yeah, a late night beaver. We'll do a marathon of some type. We'll just figure out date and time. Yeah, we'll figure out.
I was looking
make it happen.
The other day. I was looking up what was the longest podcast, and it was like Guinness World Records. See, maybe if we try that. But I don't. They had one where there was like this podcast network that just went on. That had various hosts come on and then keep it going, as opposed to like one continuous show. And there was another one where there's two people that did a continuous show. I think for 56 hours. At one point in the Netherlands.
We're not going to do 56 hours.
We're probably not, but I was hoping like the world record might have been like 18 or something, and I would have gone for it.
Yeah, we could do 24. 56? I'm not doing that. No.
God, I don't know what I would say.
Unless we did it in shifts. I'm going to sleep for 4 hours. I'll come back, and then you go to sleep.
Well, that's probably
hours.
what it was. Yes.
Yeah, because
staying up for that,
staying up for 56 hours is really bad for your health.
Yes,
that's
seriously. I would not recommend it. No, not at all. But yes, we will have some stuff there. Also wanted to give a little shout out to Kit Alex, ALIX, who's appeared on our chat the last few days. I don't know if you've been here from before, but I've just noticed you recently. Thank you for all that you're contributing. And you seem to be a very engaged and motivated person from what I was able to tell from the chat. So please do share some ideas. And if you are able and willing to help in any way, do run some ideas by us, because we're always open for help.
we get a lot of help from Uncover the News. Uncover the News sends me a lot of links. We can't get to all of them, unfortunately, because we're trying to cover as much as we can. But really do
try to keep focused, Canadian focus.
But really do appreciate everything that's sent to us, because there's stuff that we miss. We can't gather everything.
Everything I don't have to hunt for myself is helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, a little bit of news that came in. We're not going to go into too deep because we're already long into today. But it seems that there might be some breakthrough coming along with the Gaza and Israel thing. There's some negotiations and talks, and it seems that we possibly might be able to expect something this week, maybe a little later, talking about maybe letting 34 of the hostages go. And but this is the most real or concrete anything. A couple of weeks ago, I heard that there seemed to be talking, and this time, unlike the other times, they didn't just break off after 2 or 3 days, but often get these things at a stalemate, not really progressing, but they're still working at it. Seems they might have, if not the beginnings of something soon announceable. So that's looking positive. Fingers crossed, because that's been going on for quite a while.
Yes, it has.
And it would be nice to have some resolution of some type or next stage in that, so what's going on in our streets could stop too. So we need to start treating each other like neighbors again.
Oh, indeed.
And not rivals in this country. All right. That's everything that we got. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, please, I think, take the words from Jaime Batist in his letter. Register, no matter what party you support. If you're not even a normal Liberal Party supporter, but let's say you are worried about a Polyev, you have the opportunity right now to influence what one of the big 3 political parties are going to put up there on offer for all Canadians to vote for. So if you wanted, out of all the Liberal candidates that are there, the candidate to you that is the most anyone but Pierre candidate that you can get people from across different parties to vote for, because like this, if you're an NDP voter normally or a Green voter, and you want that, you want like your fail-safe backdoor because your first choice will always be your NDP or your Green candidate, but you see Pierre really coming up and you think, okay, we need at least to keep him to a minority and whatnot. An acceptable second choice for you, register as a Liberal and vote for the person that you want to be the leader, so that you give yourself a second choice in case things get really bad come election and you do need to vote X to block O. At least you get to vote X for someone that's acceptable to you.
Indeed.
And not someone else that's not something that someone else has chosen for you. That's what I mean. Getting involved at this level really matters. You have until the 27th to do it, and there's no fee. So just go to the Liberal website and register.
Costs you nothing but your time.
Even if you decide not to vote, ultimately, at least buy the color TV so that when they invent color movies, you're the first to watch them.
Indeed. I'm going to put a link in here to the chat. I did it earlier, but I'll do it again now. For those of you who are not aware, if you live in the province of Ontario, there is a pharmacare program that's been around for quite a while. It's called Trillium.
Oh, yes,
And
the Trillium drug
you can go
program. It's
in
very,
there.
if you have catastrophic drug costs.
Well, not just catastrophic drug costs. Just if you are somebody who, like me, just can't afford them right now because you're unemployed, this will cover. And all my medications are covered under this program.
They've improved that because
Yes,
when
quite a
Trillium
bit.
started back in the day, it was for catastrophic drug costs only.
Well, it's that, but it's a little bit more than that. So you can take a look.
Good. I'm glad it's a good program.
Yeah, and there's an Ontario drug benefit program as well. Well, I remember a few years ago when I went in to get a script filled, the pharmacist at the time realized what your insurance is out. And I said, yeah, I got laid off. She goes, just a second. She goes, oh, this drug is covered under Trillium. Boom, just handed it to me. And I'm like, what? I didn't know what it was. So I looked it up and then I forgot all about it. But yeah, she was able to help me out at a time when I had like no money coming in.
Yes. So yes, that's true. So if you are in Ontario like this and you have either like a one-time very high prescription like this or regular prescriptions that you take that, let's say over the course of the year, you're spending seriously over $1,000 or $2,000 on medications, because you'll want to look into Trillium.
It's a good program.
It's means tested, I think.
Yes.
And there is a quarterly deductible. When it started, the deductible was all
$100.
annual. Yeah. When it started, it was all annual. You had to pay all the deductible up front before you even got a reimbursement. They divided that into 4 quarters now to make it more manageable. Yeah, it's a pretty solid program. If you need it, do look into that if you're in Ontario. And do look in your respective provinces if there's something similar, because that would be a provincial initiative. I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Grizzly. That's a very good. That's a very good hack for some of our
There's
listeners.
5,000 drugs that are covered. 5,000.
Yes, it's a good program.
It's a good program. It is.
All right. I think that is everything, Mr. Grizzly. So please roll please cue the cock, and we will come back with a couple of images for you.
Well, and I also have an Easter egg that I don't think you've seen yet that my friend, our friend Clinton DeVoe sent to me. That is, it's
I
good.
like him.
It's good. You're gonna like this because you're not gonna see this coming. You're gonna be surprised. I was like, what? I'm just looking. Is the sky falling?
Surprises.
Is the sky falling? Because oh boy, here we go.
I like. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
Do you want to go first with your photos, or do you want me to show this video?
Yes, please. Let's go with the photos because those are quick, and then we'll end on your note. But in the alpha male sweepstakes, as we mentioned, first we have Mark Carney skating on the canal.
Just a second here while I bring it up. It takes a second too. There we go. And I will show you this. And he looks like he's... I saw that the other day. I follow him on the Twitter. There's Mark.
Right. So it's not just him standing, right? He's in mid-skate. He's got like angle going, right? He's in mid-stride. And he looks like he's been doing this all his life. He's so comfortable. Yes. Have we ever seen PP on skates?
No. PP doesn't know how to make a fist, remember?
Yes, we know he skates. But have we ever seen him on skates? Anyway.
And of course.
I'm being petty.
That's fine.
And this is Minister Wilkinson in the rugged mountains and for having a hike of some kind. So in the alpha male sweepstakes, I guess we're going to see PP flipping a big tractor tire or something like this, CrossFit or something like that, to prove he's got muscles or something like that, or that he's a real man that does outdoorsy type stuff. But these people know the game and they're playing it.
Well, and let's go immediately to Skippy.
Yes, and this is proof of how frightened they are. We saw Jenny Byrne, right? Going all off. This is Skippy.
Carbon tax Carney is a hypocrite. He opposed Canadian pipelines that would have gotten our energy to world markets, and he supports pipelines in foreign countries. Squashing Canadian energy products while boosting oil from dirty dictators. He tweets this like it's his party that got Trans Mountain done.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself there.
Well, you know,
had you guys actually got Trans Mountain done, you can complain about somebody wanting to build a pipeline to the United States instead of somewhere else. But given you didn't, and all the pipelines you now support go directly to the United States, I don't, except for when you want to go east. Really?
Yeah.
Girl.
So up next is a video clip that Clinton sent me. It's 1 minute and 57 seconds. It's from Standpoint with Gabe Groisman, featuring a senior citizen, Canadian, and well, just watch.
Well, I must admit some degree of surprise. We've always, I was, ran in fact, our Conservative Party is a very, pro-American, pro-Western party. I was probably the most pro-American prime minister in the history of our country.
Yeah, we know.
Canada, it is true that Canada presently has a modest trade surplus with the United States. The reason, Gabe, we do is because you buy so much of our oil and gas. In fact, you buy it at a discount to world markets. It's actually Canada that subsidizes the United States in this regard. And when we talk about subsidizing Canadian defense, I don't know what he's talking about. We have a shared defense of North America. The United States does that because it's in the vital interest of the United States. Do you want Canada to be a neutral country? I kind of don't understand. I just don't understand that. I don't understand that argument. There's many things he's saying. Even when you talk about migrants, first of all, there's no major migrant flow from Canada to the United States. And I'm going to tell you right now, drugs, guns, crime, most of those things flow north, not south. A lot more flows into Canada from the United States than flows out of it. So, I have a real problem with some of the things Donald Trump is saying. It doesn't sound to me like the pronouncements of somebody, I say wants a better deal or whatever, fine. But it doesn't sound to me like the pronouncements of somebody who's a friend, a partner, and an ally, which is what I've always thought the United States is for our country. Whether or not we have Mr. Trudeau as our prime minister is our choice as Canadians. We don't tell you who to elect as president of the United States. And so as much as I'm glad to see Mr. Trudeau leaving, this is not Mr. Trump's decision. It's the decision of Canadians. Ultimately, it was the decision of Mr. Trudeau.
I thought that was unique from him.
Mm-hmm. That was interesting from former Prime Minister Harper, if you recognize the voice. Now, as soon as when I posted that, a lot of things, it's some type of trick, some type of track, they're working together, they're doing a good cop, bad cop thing. And that might be possible. But I'm a human nature kind of guy, since some communications. And I know that when you are Stephen Harper, when you
still there? I think we lost.
rise to the level of chair of the IDU.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up. Can't hear you.
Yep, the phone is shutting down for some reason. I don't know what's going.
Maybe overheating.
I don't know.
Happens. No worries.
Yep.
It's all good. It's all good, sir. I'll just I'll take you out of the feed so you're not frozen with your mouth open, because it's not the best look, unfortunately. Sometimes that happens. So from the Beaver Lodge, I shall bid you all adieu. We'll see you à demain.